All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back live once again. My name is Cargos. The date is December 2nd, 2019. Happy holidays, everybody. Hope everybody's doing good around the world, my classic WoW family. Today we have a special treat for you. We're going to attempt to do a Warlock PvP guide. Now, to what effect we accomplish this is TBD, but I am joined today by some special guests. They are all new to the channel. I don't think any of you guys have seen them on my channel, but you may recognize them if you play on Skyrim or if you follow the Classic WoW YouTube space. I am so happy and excited to introduce you guys to Namtar. How's it going, man?
Hey, what's up? Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, brother. Crix, my man, my Skyrim battle buddy, my Invictus battle buddy. How are you, bro?
Doing alright, brother. How you doing?
Doing great. And last but not least, we have the man, the myth, the legend, the naked SL Warlock murderer, Voivod. What's up, bro?
What's up?
Welcome, guys. So again, this is going to be a Warlock PvP guide. I need to give a little bit of a disclaimer here. All of us, I think, are pretty competent when it comes to Warlock PvP, but we're not trying to claim to be the latest and greatest. But we are pretty well versed in Warlock, so this isn't going to be the most comprehensive thing in the world. It's going to be somewhat basic. We're going to cover a lot of the broad strokes. If we're missing anything, please, by all means, put it in the chat, and we'll cover it. We'll try and go back and forth on it. But without further ado, let's get into it, boys. I'm very excited here. So the agenda for today is we're going to do quick panelist intros. We have 4 of us here total. We're going to just do a quick introduce ourselves to you guys, get to know each other a little bit. Then we're going to go over lock strengths and weaknesses, viable PvP specs, 1v1 matchups, the Warlock role in World PvP team fights, the role in Battlegrounds. We're going to go over Warlock pets, consumables, trinkets, and offhands, or we may not get to all of this stuff. We will see. Also, stat priority, another thing that comes to mind. Let's start with panelist intros. Namtar, if you could be so kind, please introduce yourself to the stream.
Yeah, man. I've been playing Warlock since vanilla. I think I started playing WoW in my mid-20s, but I don't remember for sure. So about 12 years of Warlock. Normally play Horde, but I decided to play Alliance this time around, and it's been interesting dealing with not having Fear as such a viable use.
Absolutely. What server are you playing on, bro?
Oh, I'm on Stalag.
Stalag with the Grizzly Boys. Let's say you are Alliance.
Yes, sir.
You are Alliance. Zkaz, what's up, man? How you doing? Welcome back to the stream. So you've been playing since vanilla, playing a Gnome Warlock, I see. Have you always been Alliance, Namtar?
No, I was Horde for about the past 12 years or so. This is my first time playing Alliance, and I kind of got peer pressured into it by friends that promptly left the server for Heartseeker, so it's been an experience.
Ah, the peer pressure is real. Okay. Very good. Crix, my man, my longtime friend at this point, dude. Fellow guildie. You can be so kind.
My name's Crix. I'm an undead warlock. Been playing this game for way too long. Should probably quit at some point. I actually did not play Warlock in Classic. I didn't start playing it till like Draenor, and then I kind of big dig retail as Warlock, and when Classic came out I wanted to try it out, and I'm in love with it. I've actually started playing Warlock because of you and Voivod, so it makes it just even better that you guys are here.
Love to see it, man. Welcome. So glad to have you on the stream, man. You're a super chill guy, very easy to be around. You're also from California, right? Or somewhere.
Yup.
What, LA? LA? Where are you guys from, Namtar and Voivod? I guess what?
I'm from
I was
Michigan.
born and raised Los Angeles, California. I live about 4 hours outside of LA now.
I sense a little bit of a country twang with you, though, Namtar. You were really born and raised LA.
I was, but grandparents are kind of hometown corn-fed folks, so it rubbed off on me.
We're a bunch of red-blooded, barrel-chested freedom fighters, as you can all tell by the sound of our voices. Voivod, where are you from again, bro?
I'm in Michigan.
Oh, in Michigan. Okay, it's quite cold.
Yeah, good old Michigan, land of the cold and snow.
Absolutely.
And
if you could be so kind, introduce yourself to the stream.
yeah, well, obviously my name's Voivod. I've been playing WoW since vanilla. In vanilla, I did play a Warlock, but that was a while ago. And then I did play a Priest, and then I've been playing private servers since Nost, and then I went back to playing a Warlock, and then I've just been playing a Warlock ever since. Haven't really touched retail since WoD, really. So I make videos, guides on Warlock PvP. I guess I'm kind of known for running around naked as a Soul Link Warlock and killing people. So, well, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hell yeah. So I'm a huge fan of Voivid's content. Have been for, I don't know how long you've been doing it, man. Pretty much since the start of your channel. I feel like I've been watching your stuff. He makes some really good videos. I'm gonna be plugging him throughout this because he's very underrated channel.
Phenomenal video.
Very underrated channel. You gotta check it out, especially if you're a Warlock. If you love seeing it, naked Warlock PvP, right there for you.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that, boys.
Yeah, I'm glad he's be streaming too, man. It's just good to have you on. It's just really good to have you on. So,
Well, thank you very much.
First time for me meeting Namtar, first time meeting Voivid. Crix and I have been homies for a minute, so it's cool. We're fleshing it out. We're breaking the ice. We're breaking the ice. All right, so we did the panelist intros. The next thing we're going to go over is lock strengths and weaknesses. Now, I was talking about this offline before we started the stream. I want to make this as organic and as much of a conversation as possible. I'm already interfering with that by like doing the structured intros, but feel free to just talk shit, bullshit, chime in, just fling little zingers back and forth of knowledge that stuff comes to your mind, because oftentimes, Classic WoW is such a complicated game. There's so much going on here that like one person, you only have so much brain power to flesh out these matchups. It's rare you get together with people playing your class who are PvP minded, and we can hopefully create some value here with our discussion. So anybody want to chime in? What would you describe as some of the strengths and weaknesses for Warlock?
Well, I mean, the strengths really huge. Somebody even said it in chat here. Is Soul Link. If you are playing Soul Link, it's just it's broken. You're basically a hero class if you're playing Soul Link. Well, Warlocks are kind of like a hero class anyway. But Soul Link is so overpowered. I mean, I have videos of me just running around naked. I mean, on private servers, killing warriors with the absolute best gear. I mean, yeah, sure, I'm wearing rings and trinkets and stuff, but as far as strengths, Soul Link is just so overpowered, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, to touch on that too, pretty much rogues with Biskag or warriors with Bone Reaver's Edge are the only things I've run into as Soul Link that give me any.
Well, I mean, you have to be a good rogue. I don't know, we were talking about a little bit earlier before the stream started about the CDL tournament. I don't follow it 100%, but you have to be a really good player to beat a Soul Link Warlock, or hopefully the Warlock's just bad, right? But if you saw the duel between Peo and Snuts, he did exactly what you need to do in order to kill a Soul Link Warlock. And that was take care of his pet. And then, so first he took care of his pet and then he took care of Snuts. And it's really rare. I mean, I have played Soul Link and I have been killed by rogues. They were always dagger rogues and, they were exceptional players. But it's just so rare because Soul Link is just so broken, so overpowered.
Yeah, I haven't lost so many rogues.
Yeah. I think in the same vein of why Warlocks are strong and fun across the board, no matter what you're doing in Classic WoW, I think a big piece of that is the flexibility. There's a lot of different talent builds, a lot of different play styles, just a huge number of lines of play and ways to, dynamically, dynamically shift directions. There's so much. You have so many tools. You have so many damn abilities when you're playing a Warlock. Like I've completely run out of binds on my Warlock, and wasn't a problem I faced on my Hunter. Some strengths that come to mind: you have lots of control, lots of pets, lots of abilities in general. You feel like there's always an out. At least I do as you're a Warlock. Like I don't feel frustrated that when I play Warlock, I don't feel frustrated that my class was incapable. I felt like, oh man, maybe I misplayed, maybe I used wrong trinkets, or maybe I did something. I always feel like there's a chance.
It's like there's room for error.
Yeah, They are fantastic duelers. Soul Link is banned in, I'd say, probably most duel tournaments. We tried having Soul Link in the duel tournaments we run on Scarum, and it was just SL winning every week. And so we scratched that. But the game isn't just 1v1, duels in that little context, right? There's world PvP and big team fights. There's battlegrounds, all that type of stuff. In the vein of the talent builds and playstyles, you can both burst, do heavy burst if you go kind of a Destro build, or you can go heavy rot damage and spread pressure if you want to go into more like a deeper affliction line, or anything in between. That's the amazing thing. Any other strengths, guys? What you guys like about playing Warlock and PvP, maybe?
Well, I mean, besides the whole Soul Link thing, I mean, I want to just, my personal thoughts on Soul Link is, well, number one, it's busted, it's OP. But also, if you're just starting playing a Warlock and you're trying to learn how to PvP, then play Soul Link. Once you get better at playing the class, then try something like a Nightfall Conflag or a Deep Conflag or something else. I mean, but that's just kind of like a side note thing. I don't think that... it's kind of a meme spec just because it's so broken. But if anybody that's watching right now, they're not, they're new to Warlock and they're trying to just get into PvP. I kind of tell them to try that out, and then when they get used to playing a Warlock, then switch it up and try to go, maybe Deep Destro or whatever. SM Ruin. SM Ruin really is my favorite spec, but
I thought you were an SLSB guy. That's a quick question I'll ask you guys. So, your favorite spec to PvP as? That's yours, Voivod? SM Ruin?
Yeah, I think SM Ruin is all around the best spec. Because you can raid as SM Ruin. SM Ruin is amazing as raiding. And then, I mean, it's really good farming. It's really good for PvP. I guess I'm just known for Soul Link, like just that certain spec and just those types of videos. But like my next PvP video, I probably won't even have any Soul Link footage in there.
I see. You do kind of feel sick of not how OP. Yeah, I mean it does feel kind of OP, and sometimes you feel like you're expected to like win PvP, like every PvP altercation when you're playing an SL Warlock, and sometimes that gets a little bit old. Storm, thank you so much for the $10 donation, bro. That is very kind of you, man. It's good to see you back in the chat once again. How about you, Crix, and Namtar? What are your favorite PvP specs?
Man, I've been SM since 60, which is flexing some talents around with the Coax and then Felconk and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been rocking with it. Conflag's my favorite because it's the most fun. But I feel like we need a little more crit, a little more something to be able to just go full Conflag. But I'm still gonna try it, of course. But I'm gonna start with SM right away.
So Destro is your favorite, though. You're just not quite there yet with your development and your character.
Just those Soulfire crits are just like what beats it.
It's true. Yeah, it's
what beats that.
Very satisfying, right? Very satisfying connecting with all that big damage. And we'll get into more of this nuances a little bit later. But just because you're SM Ruin, just because you're a Destro spec, just because you're SL, that's not the end of the story, right? There's so much flexibility with talents, and there are different ways to build an SL Warlock or a Destro Warlock. Some people want to go be a little tankier and get the Demonic Embrace, get the extra stem. Some people want to go down to Nightfall if you're Destro. We'll get into that later. How about you, Namtar? What's your favorite PvP spec?
SM Ruin for sure. I think Curse of Exhaustion, especially improved Curse of Exhaustion, is really destructive in BGs and open world PvP. Something to touch on with Soul Link as well is basically what you're doing with Soul Link is you're so tanky, you're outlasting all the cooldowns of your opponent. And it kind of is counterintuitive to learning how to fight because Warlocks have very little mobility, and you're going to kind of end up in situations where if you want to play other specs or talents, you're not going to know what you're supposed to be doing because you're so used to just being a tank.
Very well said.
I agree.
So SM Ruin, Destro. As for myself, I think I just want to play what's strongest and what fits my playstyle. I really like Soul Link a lot. I like Soul Link, and I think the absolute strongest is what, and this is like a quote from you, Voivod, is, you know, SLSB is probably pound for pound as a dueling spec or whatever, probably the absolute strongest. But here's the thing with SLSB, it's so shard intensive. When I say SP, I'm talking about Shadowburn and Destro Tree. And this is my first merry-go-round as a Warlock, right? I'm traditionally a Hunter player, and going through it, man, like, the shards are an absolute nightmare, dude. They're an absolute nightmare having to maintain shards for me, because I use those shards, man. I'm handing out Hellstones to people. I'm keeping Soulstones up. There's so much prep work with the Warlock that I actually think that's a real viable consideration if you're going to be PvPing for long stretches of time, to adjust your specs so you're less shard intensive. So I'd have to go with the Soul Link Drain spec. Moving into Affliction would be probably my favorite personal playstyle. All right, great. So people get it, right? Warlocks are strong in PvP. Maybe there's some stuff we missed here, but I want to talk about something that's probably more interesting. Weaknesses. And as Warlock players, we know the weaknesses of a Warlock. And even if you're not playing a Warlock, this is super juicy information to you. I didn't even fill this out completely. Does anything stand out to you guys as weaknesses for a Warlock in PvP?
I think
off the top is mobility. Right off the top is mobility. If you don't have the right consumes, if you don't have consumes, just, you know, forget about it. I mean, you need to have free action potions. You need to have limited and invulnerability potions. But weaknesses, if you're not playing Soul Link, I'm just going to address this as we're not playing Soul Link anymore, and we're playing something else. You're squishy. You're squishy, and the big problem with that can be your mobility. So, you know, you really want to at least have consumes, and if you're not engineering, you know, that can hurt you too, you know. But off the bat, I would automatically say is your mobility.
Very true.
Yeah, definitely mobility. You do need engineering if you want to keep up with competitive PvP as a Warlock. Soul shards, soul shard management. It also takes Warlocks a really long time to reset. Once they die, they're kind of useless without their pet.
So true.
You got to burn a 15-minute soul dom. Yeah.
I feel like one thing that could be good or bad is that you can spell lock. Like we have two schools, and if you shadow lock me, we can jump right into fire, or vice versa.
Well, there's definitely a lot more strengths than weaknesses when playing a Warlock. I mean, fear, spell lock, seduce, depending on, for me, Will the Forsaken. But yeah, I would weaknesses, probably mobility and being squishy.
For me, all day, every day, it's a combination of the soul shard dependence and what exactly what Namtar was saying about the prep work. If you die as a Warlock in a PvP altercation, happens all the time. You live, you die, you trade. To recover from a death it's rough, man. It's rough. You have to like spawn an invis potion, then go away, and think about the order of operations. You have to summon a pet that takes a shard. You have to create another hellstone that takes a shard. You have to re-soulstone yourself that takes a shard, right? You have to, see if you even have a soul shard to Shadowburn left if you have something like that, right? There's and then you have to buff yourself. If you really want to buff yourself, you buff with invis and underwater breathing. You have demonic, you have your demon armor. You got Soul Link perhaps. There's you have to throw on new offense and trinkets per usual. You have to make new spell stones. Oftentimes you have to make 2 spell stones. Like there's so much you have to do to recover. But with that, if you do all of your preparation work and you have the shards to spare, at least personally, you feel like an absolute colossus in PvP. Yeah, you pump. You feel it when you had everything and you're out there at max power level with all the tools. Brother, you are a freaking god.
You want to... now, just talking about soul shards, I have 2 felt cloth bags. What I did was I bought felt cloth when it was real cheap, and I made 2 of those bags. And when I'm raiding, I'm bringing almost 80 shards to raid. If I'm going to PvP like the entire day, I'm going to bring, my bags are full of consumes and shards. I mean, Also, I don't know where you, if you guys are farming your soul shards. That's one thing that comes to mind. Right now, personally, I'm farming my soul shards in Ashara because it's close to the flight path by Org. It's really close. That and if the window's open for Astrogos, I can, scout that also. But like I used to go to Felwood, but right now with the phase 2, like rolling death balls of Alliance or Horde, you know, it's I prefer going to Ashara. So I don't know where you guys are farming your
That's a
soul
good one.
shards at.
We're really getting down to the
Same
down
thing.
and dirty value add freaking pro tips, man. For me, it's the imps in, well, you know those little packs of flame
Flame
imps?
steps.
Yeah. And they drop the
yeah.
fire stuff, like the elemental fire or whatever, and you kill them really quick. And they're in little packs of like 4 or 5. And sometimes you mess it up and you'll miss 1 or 2, but you can get charged that way. Sorry, what were you gonna say, something, Chris?
No, you're good. Burning steps were those were the imps.
Yeah.
Shards is a big thing because a lot of people have to realize like, hey, you can bag shards, but like, what are you gonna do when you're 3 BGs deep and you're trying to chain run them, and you only have a 2-minute queue? You know what I mean? And you gotta go farm some shards because you're out of shards.
And with the shards, inventory is another thing. So I have to confess, I personally have a mage bot, not a bot, but like it's my second account. It follows me around at all times and funnels me food and water, polys me when I'm low, and the poly really helps when you have 6k plus health. But without that mage, dude, oh man, it would be so rough. Because you have all these shards, you have all these spell stones, maybe a couple health stones in your bag, and then you have your gear and different pieces of gear and trinkets in your bag. And if you have your band-aids, your bombs, your sappers, your swiftness pots, your lips, if you have everything, you have like 5 inventory slots. It's disgusting.
Yeah, if that.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Right, if that.
Inventory's red.
Yeah,
You got to get those Nixia high bag prio from your red.
Yo, Warlock Prio for real though. Yeah.
We got AV coming around the corner. Quick tip is you now in AV, that in the middle of the field of strife, I believe it's called, like the Alliance and the Horde, like NPCs fight each other. You can just spam Drain Soul and fill up your bags that way. Really, really.
Yeah, and I guess that's another detriment to Warlocks and group PvP is you can actually slow your group down because you have to free farm shards while you go.
So true.
Unless you get lucky and you get that final one in PvP, you can get lucky in the BGs.
There's spiteful
Yeah.
people out there, man. Some
Yeah.
people will deny my drain soul just to.
You are constantly farming shards, man. It is a very real consideration. Like even during the AV weekend during the beta, like we would play one AV game, be fully done with shards, and just delete the character and create another one because it would, to get back into AV, it's just.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure for queuing for BGs, only the party leader has to be in a major city to queue the group up. So you could go to like Felwood or somewhere like that to farm your shards in between. But
Yeah, we got
depending on how fast queues are, it's still good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, in AV, you shouldn't be running out of shards. Unless you joined in late in a turtle and then the field of strife is empty. But if I need shards, I'm queuing AV, I'm running right in the middle, and I'm just spamming rank 1 Drain Soul on all the dying NPCs, and then I'm just filling up my bags and I'm going about my business.
It's good
Yeah,
tip.
something else.
And we're all gonna be
Something I
farming it too.
Yeah. Something I think Blizzard did, but I'm not sure if it's going to be in this patch, is made it so you respawn with your pet in BGs
Mhm.
after you die. Hopefully that's in to help us out.
During the beta, it was like that. For whatever that's worth, you would spawn
really
with
awesome.
your last summoned pet.
Did they just change it where, like, if you have a pet out and you go fly somewhere that you don't get that shard anymore? Was that just changed?
No, you get the shard if you
You should
fly.
get the
If you get on a
shard,
flight path, you get the shard. Yeah.
Or was it you can't run away from your pet?
I think it's if you
get the
log
shard?
out. People
Yeah,
were having
you
problems
can't
if
run
log
away
out,
from
you
your-
don't get.
Yeah, there's something. I know there's been like so many changes from things that I thought they would be this way in classic because they were this way in a private server. Like, yeah, so many things have changed. Although so far I would say for the
Yeah.
like one thing that kind of frustrated me was sacrificing my Voidwalker, and then I want to immediately cast an Inferno, But on private servers I'd played on that said you couldn't do that because you control a demon. Now in classic you can sacrifice your Voidwalker and summon Inferno right away, whereas like private servers you can't. And then I used to run away, from my pet if I needed a shard. Now that's you can't do that here, I guess, on classic. So just a lot of changes I noticed.
Yeah, there definitely are some changes between private servers and the real thing. Another thing that comes to mind, because I'm trying to brainstorm here what other weaknesses could be, is no on-demand slow if you don't have Curse of Exhaustion, right? And Curse of Exhaustion, you really need the amplified version to really see the impact of it. So with that said, it's somewhat easy for people to run away from you if they're right at that edge. Like, if they're not within range to fear them or whatever, like if they're right at that edge, it's tough to slow them. You have to defend them.
Also saying we have a pretty bad mana pool compared to other casters. So we have to life tap more, which is more, healer reliant.
Yeah. So to go back on to the strengths real quick, though, I do want to talk about this real quick because we're going into this. Some of the main strengths I'd say the Warlocks have to offer as well is curses. Curses are only dispellable by mages and druids, right? And they have some really high impact curses like tongues, which can really debilitate a class's ability to play. Another huge thing is the both offensive and defensive dispel. I really want to highlight that. You guys all know how important and powerful that is. Your Fell Hunter is like a little mini priest and mage with MCS as well combined. And the ability to both offensively, so you're purging off, beneficial buffs on your enemy, and defensively dispel, take off polys off yourself, or a rocket helm off yourself, or one of your allies, is so key. And especially because it has that resistance to magic, makes it so hard to interact with as other casters who are the ones that are going to get hurt by that the most, in addition to spell lock and all that. Anything else, guys? Let's take a breath here. I'm talking a million miles a minute.
5-set makes it even more beefy.
In almost all situations, you should be using your Fell Hunter. I mean, I know, especially if you're Soul Link, like the double Voidwalker sack is dirty. It's really dirty. But yeah, in most situations, you should be using your Fell Hunter.
I'd say in most, yes. But the cool thing that and this speaks to how Warlocks have so many different lines of play, is that any Warlock, doesn't matter what spec you are, you can do your little Succubus 3x CC chain right? Like, and all the time, especially as Soul Link, with your Succubus out, you actually get, 15% extra shadow damage off just having it out through the Master
Demon. Yeah.
So even if you're a Soul Link Warlock, someone tells me, hey, Cargos, you're Soul Link, I don't like Soul Link, you can't really burst, you can't really apply big pressure. Well, you can do your whole little wombo combo. I can seduce someone, and I can elements Soulfire into, let's say, just a Searing Pain Shadow Burn, do it again, Searing Pain, or Shadow Bolt, Searing Pain, do it again, Searing Pain, start the fight so far ahead, right? So far ahead. And that's with the Succubus out as a Soul Link. Yeah, you're not going to get insane value out of the Soul Link, but as long as you have Feldom, I would say, at your disposal. If you have Feldom, you have a lot more flexibility on what pet you have out. But I would agree with you, Voivid. If you had to pick one pet for that would be high impact for the variety of for the majority of situations, it's got to be the Fell Hunter, right?
I love the I agree, but I love the Succubus so much. I run around. So Succubus saved my life. I don't even know how many times. But that's also in World PvP, solo and stuff like that.
Succubus is great if you're playing Destro. Usually, I would say Fell Hunter. If I'm just going out in the world, I usually have a Fell Hunter, unless I'm trying to farm shards. Then maybe I have a Voidwalker out. But usually, I would say that Fell Hunter, if you're Affliction. You could, if you really want to be dirty, in your demonology, you could use your Voidwalker, and then Succubus if you're Destro. That's just kind of like a rough guide. I mean, it's interchangeable. It depends on what you're fighting. A Fell Hunter isn't really going to help you versus some classes where like maybe a Voidwalker would, like say like a warrior, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then on Alliance side, you have to deal with a lot of undead, and Succubus becomes kind of useless. she's also really easy to focus down once she's out of invisibility. So in 1v1 or 1v2 situations, she's definitely useful, but in group PvP, I would go with Fell Hunter or Voidwalk.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. That's the cool thing about Warlocks too. Like, hopefully you guys are we're getting this across. There's so many cool caveats to this class. There's so many weird intricacies when you look at the talents and the weird buff you get from Master Demonologist from this pet, and you really make use of all of your abilities. I've said this before on stream, I'll say it again. There's really no shit Warlock abilities. Like, even if you look at all the pet abilities, you can throw stuff in the chat. We can answer, you know how you would use even the most niche. There are ways to.
Firestone's shit though.
Firestone.
Firestone is Firestone, yeah, Firestone's up there. Firestone's up there as one of the more useless ones. We could probably think of a way to make it work though, if you wanted, not in PvP so much, but like, if you wanted to go some heat plus fire build and get the, sack your imp for the fire damage and get a bunch of talents in Destro and use Firestone and just double, triple dip down into as much fire damage as possible. You could use it. You could use it.
I bet you.
Awesome.
I'll bet you that if you went Soul Link, I'd have to figure it out, but I bet you could tank 5-mans, at least 5-mans.
I've done it before.
Maybe some raid bosses.
Especially as Alliance.
You could.
As Alliance, you absolutely can. You can tank 5-mans as Soul Link. You absolutely can. You benefit from 2 health bars.
Warlocks can actually tank Rag, from what I understand. I haven't looked into it completely, but I've heard quite a few Warlocks talk.
So it's very different on the Alliance side. You can, Alliance side with the Paladin improved concentration aura, right? They can reach that 100% pushback resistance on their Searing Pain with their rank 7 gloves, I believe. Plus that, so you can just spam Searing Pain right in the boss's face, no problem, right? So, but Horde can't reach that quite so much. But also, just to touch one last little niche point on your Firestone point, Voivod, as you guys may or may not heard, there is a way to melee while channeling. You have to do a little bit of a Fugazi thing, but you can melee while channeling. And if you're going for some tank Warlock build and you have the Firestone out, and you're able to melee while drain lifing or whatever it might be, there's room to explore and theory craft and have fun. And it's a freaking awesome class, dude. It's a freaking awesome class. Love Warlocks. Warlock life.
Yeah, you got something like Scholar too. You can get quite a bit of burst out of it.
Yeah, I wanted to try. I never tried the Imp Burst build.
Black Book. Oh yeah.
Get from BWL. Never tried it.
We did it on the PTR. It's sick, dude. The Imp is like a little machine gun. You get those talents to reduce the cast time too. He's like a little machine gun.
Right.
Yeah,
Then you have the Trinket from BWL also. Yeah, I think he'll actually. It might be somewhat biased.
Yeah, he slaps, dude. Navik used me on duels, Crix on the PTR, and I was really surprised. That thing is like a machine gun. It does so much damage. That's what I'm saying, though. You can think of weird little niche situations where like pretty much everything within the Warlock kit can be applied in some sort of viable way, and I just love that about the class.
Master class, man. It's a master class.
Hero class.
The hero class, yeah.
The hero class, right? The anti-hero class or the hero class. Just can burst, can rot, all this type of stuff. If you guys think in the chat of any other strengths and weaknesses that are worth mentioning, we can bring it up after the fact, after we move past this section, just so people watching, the video later, they can get that information. But let's move past that for now. So we've talked about strengths and weaknesses, viable PvP specs. Okay. Viable PvP specs. Where do we start?
Man. Well, obviously Soul Link. There's different ways you can go with Soul Link. Also SM Ruin. Also Night Falcon Flag.
There's everything. There's so much to unpack here.
There's a lot of specs. Another one of my favorite builds is just Deep Conflag, and then specking into Demonic Embrace, and then improved Hellstone, and then I think a couple points into. I'd have to pull up the talent calculator.
Yeah, I think that's what.
Deep Conflag from your video, and that's my favorite, right?
Yeah, the Deep Conflag, because like with SM Ruin, you're not getting, the survivability from Demonic Embrace and your improved Hellstone. Deep Conflag's a lot of fun though, because you can spec into Pyroclasm, and if you soulfire somebody and you manage to not kill them, you have a chance to stun them. It's fun. There's a lot of great specs.
There's a lot of great
Yeah,
specs.
you can watch Ascalon or XN. He's the Warlock in Apes, and he's running around as Deep Conflag right now in World PvP, doing pretty good.
Is he playing in tier 1, or what's he playing?
He's got some tier 1. It's like a mishmash. I don't think he's been that lucky with loot. I think he's got like a Robe of Volatile Power, Mage Blade, and then just a mishmash of other gear. I don't think he has his 5.
Yeah, I've been pretty bad with loot. Not too lucky. I actually feel like my character's cursed, man. I swear. But like, I got tier 1's basically meme anyway. It's just PvP gear as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But you can go, like, if you want, because a lot of our like BIS gear for PvE is like max roll Shadowwrath gear. So you could replace those max roll Shadowwrath gear pieces with max roll Fiery Wrath if you wanted to play Conflag. Because obviously you don't want to play like heavy Destro.
And just because you're going
Shadow.
Conflag, does like you said, not all Conflag builds are created equal. You can go super heavy into the Destro tree and invest a ton of talents in there, right? And even get stuff like the Daze talents and all that type of stuff. Or you can go as light as possible, only get 4 out of 5 in that Emberstorm talent, then splash into Demo and Affliction and pick up some stuff there. Or you can go get Nightfall. Every single PvP spec, just because it has a label doesn't mean there's one spec and that's the cookie cutter spec and that's what you use. There is 3-4 variations of each of the main buckets. What do you guys think if you had to vote? BG's is around the corner. BG's in 8 days. Everybody wants to do BG's. If you had to vote, what the most viable, popular, common, whatever spec comes to mind? If you had to vote for one, which one would come to mind?
There's a big debate in the Warlock Discord channel right now with people wanting to go Soul Link and a lot of us saying go SM, I feel like SM fits the role a little better as a Warlock than going SL.
Yeah, I think SM Ruin if you want to harass and kind of put more control on the battlefield, and Conflag Nightfall if you want to have burst, especially with the health pools available right now. I think Conflag's really viable. A lot of people think you need to have a lot of crit for it, but with the gear available right now, I think it's fine with lower crit.
I would say that SM Ruin in almost all situations is going to be my answer. Now, if you're just ranking and you got a group of that you're queuing up with all the time, and you want to just do spread pressure, probably the best like spread pressure build would actually be SMDS. But that's not it's not a great 1v1 spec. It's it's basically just spreading pressure. You could do that, but I would lean towards that.
That's 25% bonus damage, right? The Shadow across both of those. It's with the Demonic Sacrifice plus Shadow Mastery, right? It's a ton of damage.
You're just spreading dots, spreading dots, rotting down. Let your warriors go in and clean up the mess. And
that is something.
Just staying.
I'm so excited to flesh out and explore. Once Battlegrounds come out, I really want to explore the viability of a spell cleave, of going heavy with spread pressure. So the traditional, let's say Warsong Gulch pre-made structure is this: two mages, 2 priests, 1 of every other class, right? My vote personally, given that kind of standard metagame, would be a Destro Warlock, because it's so high tempo, it's so bursty. You're killing people fast and efficiently with high burst damage and moving on to the next, right? And spread pressure it's hard to find a huge place for spread pressure within that sort of metagame, right? So oftentimes Warlocks sit in midfield and they blow people up playing the same role as like an elemental shaman type thing, where you're trying to burst people, heavy burst people midfield as Destro. Now that Destro playstyle doesn't appeal to me as much as some of the spread pressure and disruptor type playstyles with SL, but I would vote for Nightfall Destro.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Flag. Yeah, it's that spec is so much fun.
Yeah,
it's so much fun.
I think it just depends on what you want to do. If you want to be harassing people, you can run around with SM Ruin and Curse of Exhaustion and Curse of Tongues, everything, and kind of dot rot. But if you really want to see big numbers and get that lizard brain going, then Conflag is definitely worth.
Yeah.
I made a video covering what I think are probably the best, most viable PvP specs. But like with SMDS, like if you're like an AV and you're just trying to like spread around pressure and then yeah, that can be viable. But again, I'm always going to go with SM Ruin. And if you're doing pre-mades and you're just trying to get wins and rank up, you could go Soul Link because you might be actually sitting there on a flag, or you usually, like if I'm doing a pre-made, I'm either guarding a flag or I'm floating in between bases, waiting for call outs. But
the
I
spec,
guess
I'm going to
whatever
try
your
again.
talent build depends on what you're doing in the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the other thing I'd say too is don't be a slave to the meta. There's other stuff out there too, like you could do MD Ruin even and mess around with it. It all comes down to personal preference and play style.
That's true.
One of the beautiful things about the class, baby. So sick. So what I will personally be doing when BGs come out, because I'm already kind of broke, if I'm being honest with you. I had a ton of gold saved up, but then I've been raid logging the past couple weeks, so it's been the gold's been deteriorating because I've been flasking and doing all that shit. But I'm personally going to go SLSB, right, for the battlegrounds. And yes, it's a little bit more shard intensive, and yes, it's not, my favorite would be able to splash into Affliction and go SL as well. And my role wouldn't be to do damage, just to sit there in the battlefield and throw up tongues on everybody that applies to, and to just use every global to fear people and just disrupt the enemy team, right? Not apply a whole bunch of pressure to them. With that said, you can still slap some people around, right? But to be a big meaty boy midfield disrupting people, I'm going to see how viable that is. And the reason why I'm even commenting right now is that you can sort of, in a scuffed way, raid as that spec, because you are still picking up the Imp Shadow Bolt talents, and you're getting the cast time reduction thing and Shadow Burn, so you're not going to be doing nearly as much damage as if you were in your SM Ruin or your DS Ruin, but you can still sort of raid in a serviceable way. And I still had some 90 plus parses as that spec, as that PvP spec, no flask or anything like that. Whereas if you were to go Affliction Soul Link, no chance, dude. It would be very difficult to raid as that.
Yeah, I think in raids, a Warlock's main utility right now is just their curses, because our chance to hit is so low. It's kind of like playing roulette.
Well, I mean, if you have a lot of shards and you're able to shadow weave, your shadow burns in there, or not shadow, you're able to just weave in your shadow burns off cooldown, which you kind of want to do anyway. I mean, it can be somewhat viable. You really, I guess it's up to your raid leader and your guild whether or not they'll let you roll that spec in a raid. But when AQ40 comes out and you can tank the Twin Emperors, that's actually the spec you're going to want to be. So you can just tell your raid leader or whatever, yo, hey, I need to go Soul Link for the.
I'm pumped for that.
And then you'll have your Foul Hunter out and give you more shadow resistance, and then your tanker, for Twin Emps, and I mean that's when I'll be playing Soul Link. I for sure will be playing Soul Link around that time.
Hell yeah! Can't wait, dude. Can't wait.
That tank prio on the gear.
Okay, so we have Destro, right? Big burst damage, high tempo, a lot of fun, big numbers, Lizard Brain, as you said. We have SL, which is going to make you max tankiness, right, at the expense of damage and at the expense of,
Shards.
SL with shards. No, I mean, if you go SLSB, yeah, I really like the drain. That was the one thing that I won that duel tournament with, the drain spec for
You
SL.
were draining everybody.
You just drain people right in their freaking face, dude. You don't even care. You know you're going to come out on top of that.
Yeah, you absolutely need to pet out though as SL. So that's something to take in consideration as the reset timer when you die.
So SL, big meaty boy at the expense of damage and some finesse and stuff, right? And then Affliction, if you go deep into Affliction, that's going to unlock more of your spread pressure potential. Now, there's a lot of different ways to build these out. So I don't know if we'll have time to go into each individual variation, but I think that's all about we can cover with specs, right? I mean, what do you guys think? Is there anything you want to mention with regard to specs? Maybe any tips or tricks? There's some noteworthy talents that I would like to mention. Let me pause though. What do you guys think?
I don't want to self promote, too much. but I do have a video covering PvP wise specs
Oh yeah,
on
it's a
my
great
channel, but I don't want to like self promote or. But there's just so many different specs that are good for different things. But again, if I had to say what I prefer, it's going to be SM Ruin.
Gotcha.
You know?
Noteworthy
I don't know
talents.
how it's
Sorry, go ahead.
been on your server. I don't know how it's been on your server, but everyone and their mother has a shadow reflector too on mine, and then a lot of the tier 1 gear has shadow resist baseline. So it's definitely something to take in consideration with Deep Destro.
Definitely. Some noteworthy talents to consider. Suppression in the Affliction tree. Usually you get one. I usually get 1 point because you get 1% off your Felheart robes. But OG Jeffrey approached me the other day. He was saying, "Does it feel like people are resisting more often?" A lot of people have been saying it feels like people are resisting more. So you can maybe get another additional point in there. Get 2-3 points into suppression and make sure your stuff is connecting with people. Make up for that extra shadow resist. One of my favorite talents in all of the Warlock trees is the Fel concentration, right? Giving you that 70% pushback resistance on drains. If you get that, you can now drain tank. You can drain tank in some capacity, right? Like it's an awesome talent. I can't imagine. It's really tough playing without it. So that's one thing I want to mention. The next thing I want to mention is Demonic Embrace. If you can see it on the Demonology tree, it's this one that it's right next to the improved Imp. Doesn't matter what spec you could be Destro, you could be SL, you could be Affliction. If you get these 5 points, you're going to get that big tankiness of the Warlock. Like, the tankiness of the Warlock is in large part unlocked by this talent, right? So even when I go Destro, I don't like to go Nightfall. I like to get 5 points in this Demonic Embrace. Therefore, I can get my HP up pretty damn high, and you can still get it up to like 6k, because there's nothing else improving your health other than this, right? So you're going to get some mitigation in the form of Soul Link, in form of Master Demonologist and stuff, but the only thing increasing your health with talents is Demonic Embrace, and you can get that really as any spec, so.
SM Ruin you can't, or it'd be hard to.
Oh, SM Ruin, right, but you could go,
That's a big issue with SM Ruin.
Yep.
It's accident.
You'll squish
Yeah,
it.
you also lose out on improved Healthstone, and when those things crit, they pretty much restore your entire health.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the huge downfalls of SM Ruin, is you don't get Demonic Embrace, and you don't get improved Healthstone.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
I think as better gear becomes available, it'll be less of an issue not having Demonic Embrace, but right now it's definitely something you got to consider.
Yeah, for sure.
Also with suppression. Yeah, with suppression, if you really dislike Shadow Priest, then it's worth going a little higher, because they have talents they can spec into that gives them a lot more shadow resist and a chance to miss with spells. I'm told that rogues have a talent for it too, but I'm not very familiar with the rogue's talent tree, so it's something to consider when you're spreading your points out.
Very true. Another one I want to mention too is improved Spellstone. Now, I don't know if you guys find yourself in the same boat, but oftentimes, I'd say more often than not, if I'm just lackadaisically making my way through the world, I either have a medicine pouch on in a default state or a max rank Spellstone. I would actually give the edge to Spellstone. I more often than not have a Spellstone equipped max rank at this current state of time. And the Imp Spellstone, I think it increases it by like 300, the Absorb. It's actually a pretty sizable amount. Someone in the chat will know the exact number value, but that's not something that you necessarily want to sleep on. That was pretty sweet talent there.
The improved Spellstone's just great. Usually, personally, I'm always rolling with this, or I'm rolling with Skull of Impending Doom. I don't really Furblood pouch a lot. I probably should, honestly. I just don't, because if I'm always going to Spellstone, But you got to be careful with your Spellstone, because it removes all magical effects. It will remove all your buffs and all your debuffs. And another thing, like with Spellstone, it pairs up really good with some trinkets, which I think we're going to talk about later, some of the trinkets. But Spellstone is just, you just wreck a mage's entire day.
It's awesome.
Spellstone,
It's really useful against shamans too. I know you guys don't have to deal with them as hard, but it saves my butt quite a few times against shamans that like to...
They can purge it off though, right?
Yeah, they can, but I mean, they're still... I used to play on a private server where you would fight like shamans, even though like I forgot the name of it. Anyway, but they'll still have to use a global.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on, what you're doing.
If you use it early too, and you have a bunch of the trash buffs up at that point, might be a great time to just get value from it, right? Get value from it. You always want to get the cooldown on your stones like ticking, right? Because you can use another one within the fight as long as you just keep it in mind. Like I don't always have 3 ranks of Spellstone Mage, right? But I always have 2 ranks of Spellstone Mage. You want to have the major and the greater one. The third one, sometimes I slack off on that a little bit because it's another inventory slot, right? But yeah, you can switch around.
The same could be said about your Hellstone in raiding situations. Not a lot of people will have 2 Hellstones, but if somebody's spec'd into improved Healthstone, you could have the max rank Hellstone and then your own Hellstone. Something like that I will do on longer fights, maybe like a Ragnaros fight or Onyxia. I will actually try to carry 2 Hellstones.
I do too, Onyxia, because you're pumping on Onyxia. Phase 2 is all you. So when she comes down, she's straight to you every time.
Absolutely. So if I had to recommend one spec as a closing thought, and everyone can put their own opinion on this too, if you want to raid and also be effective in Battlegrounds, with Battlegrounds around the corner in 8 days, SM Ruin, you will do fine in a Battleground as SM Ruin, and you can also raid as it as well. That'd be the spec you guys think would be the best all around?
Yeah, SM.
SM Ruin.
Honestly, if you're just gonna focus on ranking and PvP, and and maybe even it depends on what you're trying to do, but it's either going to be SM Ruin or souling some type of variation. I don't know if it depends on what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
But
I'm just trying to think of someone who doesn't have the money to respec. Maybe they want to casually do BGs or something, right?
SM Ruin, I'd vote for.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about viable PvP specs. Let's get into 1v1 matchups. Everyone loves to talk about 1v1 matchups. We got all the classes lined out here. We're going to start with the Warrior, guys. What do you guys think about Warrior? Are we favored? Or is it neutral? Are we at a disadvantage?
I think if you're Soul Link, it's a face roll.
I think it's anything in your favor.
I'm just gonna pretend that Soul Link doesn't exist, because you're gonna bring up every single class and say, "Oh, we'll just face roll them." If we're Soul Link, we're gonna face roll almost everything. But I'm just gonna answer that we're playing something else, like SM Ruin or Night Falcon Flag or something.
Mm-hmm. So definitely SM Ruin with Curse of Exhaustion. I think you're slightly favored. Warriors with Bone Reaver's Edge are obviously gonna be a problem.
Oh, Bone Reaver's Edge. Ooh, big slapper. DRM, yeah, that thing is insane.
Yeah, if they pop wreck with that, it's kind of GG.
Yeah.
But it also depends on the situation. Are we talking 1v1 duels where the matchup is coming, because then you can have your Void Walker out and deny their rage generation and things?
I would say no. I mean, we could talk about that too as well, but I'm just trying to think about what's most practical. Let's think about in a world PvP situation, you're not going to be skewed that heavily towards just warriors, right? You're not going to have your Void Walker out, and in a BG, you're probably not going to have it out as well. You're going to have the Fell Hunter out. So let's assume Fell Hunter probably, out, and you're going up against the warrior.
Ooh, that's nasty.
Yeah, you might have a bad time there. If I have my Fell Hunter out. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I interrupted you. My bad. Sorry, man.
Oh, no, you're fine. I mean, you're probably going to have a bad time.
Yeah.
Now, if you're lucky, maybe you're an engineer. Well, I don't know. I always carry magic dust on me. Let's just say that you're carrying consumes on you. I'm always carrying limited vulnerability potions. I'm always carrying free action potions. I'm always carrying magic dust on me. So I'm going to kind of have the advantage anyway, because at least have those consumes on me, and I'm an engineer. And a lot of the times, even while I'm farming, I'll keep my Gnomish Netomatic on me. So I'm always prepared for somebody to hop on me. Now, the way I'm going to deal with a warrior is I'm going to try try to dead zone him if I can. You know, I'm gonna try, but it's probably not gonna work.
You're speaking within the range of intercept range, right? This is where we're
right.
Yeah.
I don't or
intercept
I don't want
melee, yeah.
Right. I wanna right. I wanna try to dead zone. Now, if he hops on me right away, first thing I'm going to do is I'm either going to, and I have my Fell Hunter out. First thing I'm going to do is I'm either going to free action potion, I'm going to limited invulnerability potion, or I'm going to magic dust. Or I might, I'm going to do one of those things. I'm going to save my coil for a heal because I know he's going to hit hard. And then, hopefully I have my Hellstone. I have a Hellstone. And then, like, a Spellstone is really not going to help you at all in this situation. So actually having a Spellstone against Warrior is not a good thing. But yeah, my whole game here is just try to dead zone them, keep my dots up, stay alive, and I'm probably going to want to use a limited invulnerability potion. If I'm lucky enough to just dust them right away, and then I could maybe pump in a Soulfire, or I could switch out my pet. You're able to reset if you use a magic dust on them, and then when you engage after like I'd probably open with a Soulfire, and then limited invulnerability potion, and then but it's so situation, it's situationally different.
The crazy thing is, as you talk about your approach to Warrior, it's a very viable approach. Don't get me wrong, absolutely. But it's so crazy that there are many ways to build this car out, right, and find win conditions against any class. And the slightest change, like of having a different pet out, or a different trinket, or maybe a different offhand, can dramatically affect how you're going to approach the matchup, right?
Yeah, it's situationally different. Like, what pet do I have out? What are my trinkets? If I don't have my Netomatic, and he's not a gnome, I'm going to equip my my Netomatic. You never want to use your Netomatic against a gnome. I mean, I guess you could, and hopefully they just don't know what they're doing. But usually they're just going to escape out of it. So
another useful item is the Gnomish Cloaking Device, because you can. I don't know if you guys know this, but if you use a Gnomish Cloaking Device, you can get off a Soulfire before you'll reappear and things like that. Make a lot of.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're going to Cloaking Device, send in your pet right away, and always open with either a Shadow Bolt or a Soulfire, something that's going to hit hard, because if you dot while you're using your Cloaking Device, it's just going to break your Cloaking Device. So you always want to open up with something hard.
With that said, also, if you're doing the CC chains, know how fast your dots tick, right? Corruption takes a full 3 seconds before it ticks one time. So when you're doing your CC, when you're DRing out your Seduce with your Succubus, you can actually cast precast a Corruption, then cast a Searing Pain after, so that it all hits together. Versus Curse of Agony, it's every 2 seconds, right? Curse of Agony, 2 seconds. Corruption, Siphon Life, all the other shit is 3 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I'm fighting a Warrior and he gets to jump on me, I'm probably gonna dust him. I'm gonna use a magic dust on him. Probably. If he's alone, it's just one-on-one. I'm probably gonna dust him. I'm gonna switch out my trinkets. I might even summon a pet. Now, usually magic dust only lasts 10 seconds. It's about the same as a rocket helm, which I believe is only 10 seconds. And I mean, often I'm running around with my rocket. If my rocket helm's off cooldown, I'm running around with it. Like, a huge thing, the biggest thing about Warlocks is our utility. Our utility as a Warlock, paired with consumables and other, engineering items, you have to work all those together, and it's all situationally different. With what you're fighting. So, there is no, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this.
And there's counterplay on the other side too, right? There's just so many moving pieces that come on down. I would say what we can talk about is we can talk in like the closest things that we can find towards like absolutes. So I would say the best pet to have out against the Warrior, and this is not even an absolute, but it's probably, I would probably guess, for the Voidwalker overall, you have the Absorb, which is very, very powerful. And also, if you are in like a soul link or have access to Master Demonologist, you get the 10% damage mitigation. With that, Succubus is also quite good as well. My vote for best potion versus warrior. It feels scummy when you use it, but the best potion given my playstyle is a lip, limited vulnerability potion. You're able to just kind of sit there and just take his abuse, like during the most inopportune time for him with a lip. And if, in my experience, if you lip against the warrior and it's a 1v1, like, you're gonna win that 1v1, but you feel kind of dirty about it afterwards. Now, you know, if you don't have a lip and let's say you only have swiftness, maybe that changes your strategy and you have to try and kite him around a little bit or whatever. I would say in my opinion, you're generally favored versus a warrior. And the one thing I want to add to this matchup is that if you have Fel concentration and you're a warlock, even if you don't have Fel concentration as a warlock, know that warlocks have so much gas in the tank when it comes to using either just a major healing potion, a Hellstone, Voidwalker sack. You can trade really efficiently if you have Siphon Life, whatever it might be. So don't be afraid to not run from the warrior and just tank him in his face and just drain life. Trade with him. Actually aggressively play that matchup and trade with him, because unless the warrior is exceptionally geared, has a ton of cooldowns, and this can happen. As soon as you slack on a warrior and you think that they're out of the fight, they can do some retarded damage. I'm not even joking, like ridiculous damage, right? But don't be afraid to just drain tank them in their face, because you're probably going to win that.
Yeah, the pummel, like if you get pummeled from drain tanking a warrior, the pummel isn't really going to bother you too much, and then you could probably just, fill in, you get pummeled. Fill in with the Searing Pain. So, yeah, you're definitely favored here. But then again, don't be surprised when a warrior just runs up on you and two-shots you when you're just sitting there trying to farm shards. Because it's going to happen.
It's going to happen a lot more later on, too, because they scale really well.
Yeah.
Warrior with full rage bar opens up on you, gets the charge off, dude. Woo! Oh, man.
Yeah.
It would be
and if he's got a healer with him, you better be good at doing some 2v1s.
A warrior with a pocket healer is probably the scariest thing in the game.
It's scary, man.
A warrior with any support.
I also think it's important to remember that a Succubus Charm, a warrior, doesn't have a counter to that versus all your other pets. So when you're talking ideal matchups, Feldoming into a Succubus is probably better.
Very true.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And they have solutions to everything. Rocket Helm they can get out of, Fears they can get out of, right? So like the Succubus Charm and Fear share the same DR, right? So if you can't get consistent value out of your Fear, you can get it out of the Charm. With that said, there is a 10-second window between Berserker Rage cooldowns that warriors are fearable. I've been hoping and praying for the longest time that someone could make some sort of weak aura to reveal when that gap in time is. But if you think about it, right, it lasts what? It's 20 seconds and it's like a 30-second cooldown or something. There's a 10-second gap where you can be your warrior. But it just, they have all these things that look like, what, Blood Rage has the same animation as Berserker Rage, right? So like, I don't know, it's hard to know when that is, and it almost just feels not worthwhile even trying to fear them, because you don't know that information confidently, at least personally. But something to keep in mind. They also have that Death Wish shit or whatever, right? But I don't know if they have that in PvP spec, right? The what is that called?
I think Fury or Warriors spec into Death Wish,
Yeah.
I mean, my highest soul fire on a private server, my highest soul fire was 7,800, and that is because the warrior Death Wished. So when I see the Death Wish, I think, all right, I'm pumping damage into him as hard as, like right now, burn.
Yeah, I got an add-on that audibly notifies you of key abilities being used, and when I hear recklessness, that's when I start to worry.
Yeah, that's when you want to use your limited vulnerability potion.
Yeah. Now, one thing you can do, I want to talk about this. If you have a Succubus out, you can, in theory, connect with so much damage. Like you can connect with damage across all 3 charms from your Succubus without the other player being able to interact with their character. It's hard to execute, but you can do it. And the way you do it is you elements, they, while she's casting the seduction, they get seduced. You can open up with a Soulfire into, what is it? It's Soulfire into like Searing Pain Death Coil. Maybe it's just Soulfire Death Coil. Either way, just think about it this way. You do big damage followed up into a Death Coil, right? And then off the Death Coil, you charm off that, right? You charm off that death coil. So now they still haven't been able to interact with their character at all. They're charmed again, right? And then you open up like with a shadow bolt into grenade, right? Then off the grenade you charm again, and then you open up with more damage. If you're able to do that, you will be so far ahead, right? The key is the grenade there, though. It's the projectile shadow bolt into a grenade off the charm. You do that on that second charm, and then you guys get what I'm saying, right? You guys, if that's like that's a good yeah.
Well,
Something
you can
else
totally
to
lock somebody down. You can totally 100% to zero somebody with a succubus.
Mm-hmm.
And now, this is my personal opinion. I think a succubus is cheese. It's just real. It's kind of cheese, because I mean, just not being able to play your character, just that's kind of sucks to do that to somebody. But then again, you can just two-shot a succubus. Like, if I ever see a succubus, I'm throwing dots on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I really don't personally play with the succubus a lot, but I don't know. Some people get actually mad about that. You can't talk, cross faction here, but I don't know. It's kind of.
A lot of my 1v1s they're bitching about me using a second.
Yeah, I wouldn't I don't know, man.
I treat succubus as kind of the same concept as triangle trapping. I expect her to die after the first seduce, but I try and create distance between me and my succubus with her on stay, so that I have that distance to keep kiting after the fact.
Yeah.
He's very fragile. That's another thing too.
Something else you can use against warriors is the goblin mortar. Not a lot of people realize that the stun doesn't break on damage, and it doesn't share a cooldown with grenades, so you can chain those together and
I did not know it doesn't break on damage. Thank you so much. That's very, very, very interesting. It is hard to connect though, because you lob that shit like a fucking water balloon. But yeah, that is very interesting.
So a 4-second AoE stun that doesn't break on damage.
Yeah, man.
One thing I'd like to bring up now, there used to be, again, on private servers, because I used to play a lot of private servers, blah blah blah. But you guys probably have seen my videos. I used to use large rope nets, which aren't in Classic anymore. They used to be farmed in Duskwood off the Murloc netters. Those are no longer in game. Normally, I would say if those were in game, I would say definitely you want to use those. Obviously, not against a gnome, but sadly, they're not in game. So
yeah, the Netomatic is a amazing trinket to use versus warrior. Oftentimes, like on the PTR and stuff, I would just start the duel with Netomatic. First thing I have access to, throw it out, see what happens. Based on the outcome of that Netomatic, I will craft my strategy against that warrior. Another thing too, you're going up against warrior. Get that shadow burn out there. Just throw it out there. Get it on cooldown if you're gonna go for that line of play and you're gonna start. You know yourself. You're gonna burn through a couple shards that duel. Get it out there so you can get it ticking fast. And don't get shadow reflector, dude. Don't get your death coil shadow reflector. You kind of have to play this mind game of when you're gonna death coil, right? And I guess that applies to all the matchups, right? Because everybody could have that, but. The most textbook thing you want to avoid. Warrior connects with you finally. He starts putting some meaningful damage on you, and then you panic coil, to create space, right? Like, that's the most predictable time to use the death coil. So get a little bit creative with it. Try and big brain it. Maybe use it at a time where you're not going to get the health value from the death coil, and that may be a good time to use it just so you can assure yourself you're going to get that control and then chain something off that. Yeah,
either that or watch your health, and around 1500 health, I'd say throw your coil out to get above their crit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good tip too.
How do you lose
also,
to a warrior?
Also, there's an item called Really Sticky Glue. That's a quest item. It's a one-time thing. That'll take care of it. That'll take care of a warrior.
If someone ever uses super sticky glue on you, they fucking hate you, dude. They're using.
Oh, there's also the discombobulator ray or light of a loon if you really want to.
Yeah, I used my light of a loon on a warrior.
All right,
that would be it. Could you imagine that being a warrior? Oh my god.
Let's go through these from top to bottom. Starting trinkets and offhand. Let's envision we're in the perfect scenario here. What would your ideal trinkets and offhand be versus warrior?
Net.
I guess I'll go first. Gnomish Netomatic, offhand, fur blog pouch, Yeah, third log pouch, gnomish netomatic. What else? Maybe goblin mortar. Also, it's going to be a combination of those.
Yeah, in a
I
perfect
like my
world, I'd
toe
say Tidal Charm and either a Toep or a Net. And I personally prefer extra stats against warriors. I'd rather have the stamina from something like a Fire Rune Grimoire, but that's
the
all
bony
personal.
one.
Fire Grimmer, yeah. I feel you on that. In a perfect world, yeah, it'd probably be Tidal Charm and AGM Trinket. I have neither, so not in a perfect world, but that's what I probably prefer. I'd probably, if it was me playing a warrior right now, I would probably have Toep and yeah, probably Netomatic Toep, and offhand, like you said, Frobog Medicine Pouch for me.
Toe up net, bony,
Yeah.
bony offhand.
The good thing about absorbs, right, is against the warriors, they don't generate rage when they're hitting this absorb, right? So absorbs are very powerful. It's also a big reason of why you can really snowball against the warrior if you sack the void early. Because here's the thing about warriors, man. Warriors are like a giant aggressive meatball, right? Like they kind of have to ramp up their rage, right? And then they can get procs and stuff starts to really ramp up and go crazy, right? But if you shut them down from the start of getting that rage going, bro, they're kind of potatoes, man. Sometimes like you. So if you do like a really early Voidwalker sack into like a Feldom resummon Void sack again, like the warrior's just not even getting anything going. It's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, they can't even chew through your sack shield if they don't have any rage. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And then they can't. You're right. If they don't have rage to begin with, they can't berserker rage. So you can just. So if they don't have any rage, you sacrifice your Voidwalker. Or not berserker rage. What am I thinking of? Anyway, they're easy. If they don't have rage, you can fear them a lot easier.
If you have your Voidwalker out, you're not gonna lose. You shouldn't.
Yeah.
Unless they got a priest with them and they dispel the shield.
True, yeah.
So let's talk about how you lose. How do you lose against a warrior? What are a common mistake or scenario that might come to mind?
People with a lot of walks do. They try to fear. They either don't know or what's going on, and they just try to change.
Fearing at the wrong time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Getting kicked out of your fear and locked out of your spell tree.
Yeah. Obviously, if they got a healer buddy with them, it's going to be really hard.
I'd say one thing that comes to mind is trying to run away when you're in no position to run away. Like if the warrior's connected on you and you're at that stage of the matchup and like you've exhausted your control options, know when to not just like kind of run away like an idiot with your back turned taking more damage. Like know when to plant your feet and to start just drain lifing him and just see how it maths out, and don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Getting yourself reflected on a death coil can hurt you a lot.
Oh yeah.
Or just if you're not paying attention. Not having, not carrying consumes on you that you should be carrying if you're, a PvP player, which I'm sure everybody watching right now is, not being prepared, really.
If your net backfires.
Yeah, your net backfires, that can be really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm farming, usually, because I'm out in the world or going somewhere, whatever, I usually have my rocket helm on me. I usually, now, if I'm farming, I usually am farming with the Voidwalker. So, it's just about being prepared, really. If you're not prepared, you can get two-shot. Also, bad RNG,
Oh, yeah.
That's definitely a thing.
And the warrior could just get good RNG. And the warrior could just get fantastic RNG and freaking two-shot you, like you said, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely important to be able to recognize the gear the warrior has. Like if they have a Bone Reaver's Edge or a Hand of Rag or something like that, I think you need to be a little more cautious with your spacing.
Absolutely. What's up, Cats, in the chat? Good to see you in here, Kitty Helper. One guy also asked, Gatso, so you should never try to fear a war. How would you respond to that? Let's say it's a duel, it's a 1v1. Are you even attempting, given your own respective playstyles and specs, to fear a warrior?
If I have full dots up and I'm locked out of my fire tree, I might do it just to bait the Zerker Rage if it's optimal. But for the most part, I think it's a huge damage loss. That's fear is what, like a 3-second cast time? I can't remember off the top.
1.5,
yeah.
A lot of people try to fear against warriors.
Yep.
So that's a GCD you're missing. You could be burning a Shadow Burn on them or something like that to be pumping more damage out of them and getting them.
And don't be afraid to use that fire tree too. That's something I can improve on, right? Knowing like if you do get locked out, don't just sit there like a numbnuts. Like friggin' use your fire tree, use your wand, do something. Chuck a grenade. There's stuff that you can do, right? Maybe do a bandage.
Yeah,
get a tick or
especially
something.
with the blue PvP set, that 50% pushback on Searing Pain. A lot of people underestimate Searing Pain, man. It does a lot.
Yep. Absolutely.
Searing Pain's huge.
Fast.
Actually, I want to
And-
talk about Searing Pain. Not to interrupt, but say you coil the warrior. Usually, if you coil something, I personally will try to coil and then try to put in a shadow bolt afterwards. Now, if the warrior's quick, you're not going to be able to do that. So coiling into a Searing Pain is probably a better option. And Searing Pain is actually really, really good. So I will coil and then Searing Pain.
Yep.
And the other benefit of spamming Searing Pain is if you get locked out of your fire tree, it's not as big of a deal.
100%.
And they just wasted their.
Yeah, you shouldn't. I mean, obviously, you don't really want to get locked out of shadow, but if you do, just always, keep a mental note that, hey, I got Searing Pain,
Immolate too.
or I got Immolate.
People sleep on Immolate. I mean, you put it on there, but when you're panicking, you want those instant dots. You don't want to cast something, but when you're locked out, throw Immolate up.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right, we talked a lot about Warrior. There's a lot of really good information. I'm really happy with the way this is turning out, guys. I don't know. One's in the chat if you guys are having fun right now. I'm fucking having fun. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. This is sweet. This is like really freaking a great time. Let's move on to the next one. We have the Paladin. I don't know. I have a red Paladin here swinging a Sulfur Hand of Ragnaros right now. That's not going to be most likely the Paladins are going to be facing. Do we even talk about the duels here? What are we dueling? If we're dueling or 1v1ing a Paladin, they're going to be some sort of holy thing, right? Like, do you even duel that? I mean, you can kill them, but what do you guys think?
I laugh at Paladins. Literally, I mean, you have to be like the best Paladin in the world to kill me. If you stun me, number one, I'm always having my Fell Hunter out against Paladin, and I'm having my Fell Hunter out basically anyway. I get stunned by a Paladin, I'm just going to Devour Magic that off myself, right? I'm going to create distance from myself from the Paladin, because a Paladin has no kick. A Paladin, unless they're an engineer, they have to go way above and beyond, to kill a good Warlock. Because their stun is just, I'm just going to Fell Dom that. I'm not Fell Dom. I'm going to push that right off myself. And then I'm creating distance. Obviously, if they bubble, I just, run away. And then after that, you can just fear them right in their face. What can they do? So fear them. And now they're going to start to heal, right? So you keep a Curse of Tongues on them. Mm-hmm. When they get low, you just throw a Curse of Tongues on them, or you might just keep a Curse of Tongues on them anyway, and then just keep pumping damage into them. You should not, as a Warlock, really have any problems with a Paladin.
I would agree with you, bro. I would say pretty favored. We can get into the reasons why. What do you, Rick Snam, sorry, would you say favored?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Once their bubbles done,
definitely
when they bubble, you just start bandaging or something, like, it's just game over. They can't do it. I never tried.
Basically, a Paladin has to spend a lot more gold than you do to win a fight, is what it comes to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're a perfect candidate, in my experience, in my limited experience, of going for the drain mana line on Paladins. Now, throwing up a Tongues and not worrying about... what is a Paladin going to do to you with no mana? Like, he's just going to walk around like a potato. They're very easily... kited. They don't have any on-demand slows as a Paladin. They have no ranged attacks. So you can just control them, drain their mana, throw Tongues up on them, play that attrition thing. They're not going to be putting out any meaningful damage on you.
Paladins are definitely a support class and not a solo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like a rep Paladin, I mean, even, you can silence them when they're trying to heal. They have so much work to do against a Warlock. I just find them, not really hard to deal with at all.
Yeah. I will say, so going back to the private server days, if you guys remember that dude Drakova, anybody in the chat remember Drakova? He was a Paladin, used to stream. He was playing with S-Fan and them back in the day. He would, pride himself on his ret play, and he would put together resist sets, right? And he had like a shadow resist set, and if you guys know about paladins, they have the auras as well, so they get some further resistance. And here's some reckoning paladin somehow with full freaking reckoning stacks and full shadow resist gear. I'm not eliminating the idea that you could lose and get killed by a paladin, but it would have to be something like that. That's how the lost condition I'm thinking of right now.
Yeah, and then if you have prior knowledge of that, you can just curse a shadow on them, and it's still.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I don't do if I'm fighting a paladin is I don't send my pet on a paladin. I usually, or if I do and I see them spamming sit, I pull my pet back because they're just going to try to wreck bomb you. So always, like, if you're fighting a paladin and you send your pet in and you see them spamming sit, they're just building up wreck bombs. So normally what I do is I don't send my pet in on them. And also going back to warriors, I usually don't send my pet in on them because I don't want them to generate rage, right?
Yeah. There's someone
Yeah, the
asking
only time
about.
I send a pet out is when pushback is gonna benefit me from.
Yeah. Someone is asking about drain mana. It's something that I like. My favorite hunter ability is Viper Sting. I love taking people's mana. It's so much fun. Improved mana burn. You guys have an opinion on mana drain?
Well, I'll use it on a paladin. If I see the paladin if he's got full mana, probably not. But no matter what, I'm gonna toss a Curse of Tongues on him. Now, like, this is like a group versus group scenario. If he's got low mana, I'm Curse of Tongues. I'm gonna start draining his mana. If he doesn't, I'm probably just gonna Curse of Tongues on him and then fear him. Try to bait out the bubble. If you can get that bubble, after the bubble goes down, just switch the paladin and kill him. But I'm always going to try to control the paladin, silence him, Curse of Tongues, fear, in group fights. In 1v1 scenarios, again, I'm probably always going to use the Curse of Tongues on him, and then I'm going to dispel myself as soon as he stuns me, and then I'm just going to fear him right in his face, and then he's going to have to bubble. It's either get feared, fire away, or bubble and use your bubble now and try to stay on top of me. So, I mean, a paladin can kill you. It's not like it's impossible, but it's rare. They have to go above.
I would say that it shouldn't happen.
It really shouldn't happen.
Speaking from equally geared terms, and the paladin has an uphill battle against the warlock. They have to outplay the warlock, and the warlock controls the fight.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And here's my thing about drain mana. I think if you're going up against a mana user, except for Druid, it doesn't really matter with Druid because they can just go form. All I need is just enough mana to go form, and then it'll cancel your thing. I'm never gonna start a 1v1 engagement against someone with mana drain, like when they're at full mana. Like it just doesn't do that much to drain mana, right? Like, and oftentimes, the people you're doing that against are going to be like priests and paladins, people that can convert that mana into health. So, applying damage in a more efficient way you're kind of doing the same thing. You're draining their mana through damage, just not through draining their mana. So here's the thing. You trade with the people, you trade with the paladin, you trade with the shadow priest, and they're exchanging cooldowns with you, you're going back and forth. You wait for that moment for that class to overextend their resources, and they drop down to maybe 35-40% mana, right? At that point, the light switch flips. You can switch your line of play completely from the damage to the total control. You throw up a different curse, you just position yourself differently, and you start draining their mana. That's the most common use case I have for drain mana, personally.
So for me, with channeled spells, if the class I'm facing has some kind of silence or kick, then I'm really wary of that, because channeled spells are just asking to get kicked. But if you've gotten them to burn that through like Searing Pain Spam or something like that, and they're at about 20% mana, then I'd say it's worth channeling the drain mana 100.
Yeah, drain mana.
Yeah, Gato in chat's asking what to do when you bubble, I bubble. When they bubble, you just heal. Wait for bubble. Get some range on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I guess
it's dependent on your
when they
spec.
bubble. If they offensively bubble because they see you casting fear and they want, it's gonna be harder to get away from them. You can die to a paladin. Don't get me wrong. There's gonna be a paladin. Once upon a time, there will be a paladin that's just gonna maybe outplay you. You don't have X cooldowns, you don't have this, and they do. It's very possible.
Certainly.
So,
Another thing you could do too, as well, knowing that they don't have any really movement speed. They don't really have any movement speed increase, and they don't have no on-demand slow. If they're running at you in bubble offensively or something, you could swiftness potion and just run away. Like you could nifty stopwatch and run away. I love nifty stopwatch as a warlock.
Yeah, I think the
Cool.
best thing paladins have is like a 15% movement speed buff as ret, something.
Yeah, it's what is it? People are gonna know, is it 8% or is it 4% each talent point pursuit of justice? It ends up being like, I think it's like an 8% movement speed.
There's also a sword out of Stratholme that gives you a movement speed increase. It's a two-handed sword that's an epic. One of my guildies got it, and it gives you 8% movement speed, I think. So recognizing that sword would be.
Okay. Good to know. All right, so I think there's not a whole lot to go through here for Paladin. I don't think we could go through Trinkets and Offhand, but I think let's just, in the interest of time, keep going. Druid is the next one we have up right now. What do you guys think? Favored or unfavored?
Dave,
I haven't struggled with any druid that I fought except for Swifty sometimes.
I don't really. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. The only problem I can have with a druid is if they're moonfire spamming, like outranging me, running back and forth into range, moonfire spam, blah blah blah. That can be usually I'm just gonna try to disengage. That can be really annoying. I don't like druids. Their play style. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't ever want to play like that. That's pretty much the only way a druid's really gonna annoy me. Again, a druid doesn't have anything. They have a bash. That's it. Once their bash is done, usually, a charge bash. It seems like that's what druids always want to do. As soon as the druid's bash is gone, what's he got? Just fear him. You could just fear him right in his face.
Pummel.
And then, I'm going to keep a curse of tongues on them, even though they're probably going to decurse. I'm going to keep them feared, and I'm going to pump damage into them. I'm almost going to treat them the same way I would a paladin, really. I'm going to try to fear them and just pump damage into them. But, it's a lot easier for them to run away and max range you. So they're just annoying, if anything, for me to fight. That's about it.
One huge thing when fighting druids is you have to realize that your Fell Hunter can rip off their high impact hots, and that they're very susceptible to fear. If you keep them cleaned up and you have your Fell Hunter out, it is very difficult for the druid to win. With regard to the Moonfire spam, if you have your Spellstones available and stuff like that, I don't know if they're going to be able to outpress you. You'll be able to stabilize against a druid. The other thing about druids is that they're not casting Moonfire. So swapping into form is kind of expensive for them, right? So if they're like constantly swapping in and out of form and stuff, they're going to go right? So that's really the case with Feral. If you ever try and do like a Feral druid, like they pop out of form, they can cast like one thing, then they go back into form. Here's how I lose to druids in my limited experience fighting, because it's hard to get 1v1s and duels off against druids. For some reason, they're not very duel oriented. Is when you're going up against a resto druid and you're expending resources, pumping damage into them, but not being cognizant of actively life tapping, right? So you're just spending mana, trying to create all this tempo and pressure, but if that druid is able to stabilize for whatever reason off of your pressure and go back into bear form with a full health bar, and you're now down to 20% health, you're in a dangerous situation at that point, because they will actually outlast you. And when you tap, you kind of deal a good amount of damage to yourself. And if you start tapping and the druid's up in your face, they can actually out attrition you as a druid. And I think oftentimes as a druid, that is your win condition, to out attrition the other person going in and out of form.
It's possible they do that. I mean, that's possible. If you're PvPing, you should be using life tap rank 3 and life tap or 3 or 4. I personally use 3, and that doesn't give me a whole lot of mana. But in situations I'm sure we'll bring up hunters here in a minute, like a Viper Sting, we're always getting Viper Stings. Well, now I'm not life tapping myself to death. So just be careful that you don't want to life tap yourself to death.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I mean, like I said before, like druids, they're just annoying to me. They're running in and out of my range. Like, I mean, I guess yeah, I can kind of appreciate the play, but it's just kind of a little bit. They're just so annoying. But that's all they're gonna do to me is annoy me.
Yeah, if
Unless
you're
I'm,
getting
like,
your
out to
hunters
die
out,
and
you're
they
pretty
get.
good usually.
The only way like I'm gonna die to one is, I'm about to die, and then they just jump on me and manage to kill me and gank me, but that's about it.
Yeah, for me, druids are basically a good druid is going to be just a longer fight and a battle of mana, but they don't really have an answer to fear. So
It's true. Yeah, they struggle with the fear big time. Another thing I would recommend to druid players is to don't feel compelled to keep swapping in and out of forms. Like, it really is a battle of attrition oftentimes. So, like, stay in form and get that passive mana regeneration, for longer before you swap in and out trying to out finesse me. Just try to play that big picture game and take some damage. Don't be afraid to take some damage if it's going to preserve your mana and you're going to get a few more spirit-based, spirit ticks off. As long as you feel confident you can recover from that. Another thing, which is always a lost condition against anyone, really against anyone, is if they rocket helm your pet. That's one thing. If you're a non-warlock right now and you're listening to this, if you can rocket helm the pet, that is huge. There's a cooldown associated with that, right? But rocket helming the pet, especially the Fell Hunter, is a good way to have a really good chance of killing that warlock, especially if it lasts the full duration, man. Because there's nothing you can do as a warlock to get your pet out of that.
Yeah, that's true. Now
I think the only
think
answer
in
to a
PvP
rocket helm pet is a fell dom into another pet, but you can't summon the same pet that you had out, or it'll keep the deep.
That's true. Actually, that's true. There is a solution. I just learned something from this. Thank you so much. That's true. That's actually true.
I believe it's still only going to be 10 seconds, though. But still, it's 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's 10 seconds on pets or if it's the full.
I think it's the full
30
one,
seconds
bro.
or something in PvP.
I think it's
If
the
it's full
one.
30 seconds, that's really. I don't know. I'm going to have somebody rocking home my pet later on today.
And that's another
see how
tip
long-
for people that are facing Soul Link warlocks is you can rocket helm our pet and then kite, and if the warlock's dumb enough to chase, they're going to lose that Soul Link.
Yeah, the pet management is huge. Never ever do that.
If this guy's
Never
saying if the
let
warlock is SL, you
your
can't
pet
rocket
run
helm the
like
pet.
outright.
Why couldn't you rocket helm the pet if he's SL?
No,
He's
I
talking
said
about Feldon?
you can rocket helm the pet, and then you kite the warlock away from their pet so they lose their Soul Link buff.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm saying a guy in chat. No, I 100% agree with you. He's just saying if the warlock is SL, you can't rocket helm the pet. I wonder why he's saying that. You can. You can definitely rocket helm the pet, but maybe he's talking about what you said, yeah, the counterplay of Feldom into another pet. It's got to be that, right?
Well, if that's a good point actually, because if you rocket helm my pet and I take damage and then my pet takes damage, wouldn't that break the rocket helm? Now, really, honestly, this I never. Now that I'm thinking about it, really had too many people rocket helm my pet. Not really. Almost.
I've had it happen
Ever.
against another warlock that used it to. Then he fear kited me, and then he took advantage of banishing my pet while I was fear.
Okay, I get it now. I get it now. It's a split damage. Okay, I now I'm realizing why this happened, because in our duel tournaments we banned SL, right? So I was a weird spec where I had Siphon Life instead of SL. I was pretty much an SL spec, just with no Soul Link. I had Siphon Life instead, and that's why, right? No, I 100% agree with you, Caleb. My bad. Yeah, if the SL is gonna break as soon as they start applying damage to you, the pet's gonna take it, right, and break it out of the rocket helm. But if you are not SL, big play. That's a big play. Yep.
Yeah, it's important to recognize what spec the warlock is if you can.
Which can be hard.
Also,
From
if
outside,
you get
probably.
rocket helmed, maybe some guys didn't know that. If you get rocket helmed, you remove it with your Foul Hunter. You just purge it off yourself.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
And if you get magic dusted in the face and you're undead, you just will the Forsaken out.
This is true. Another thing against Willed and Forsaken in general, as just an overarching tip, you fear someone, they Wodif, you can immediately death coil them, and the death coil isn't considered a fear, it's a horror, right? So like even though they still have that 3 seconds of the Wodif, that coil will connect with them instantly, and then you can do a fear off that, or a grenade or whatever, and just keep it in mind. That's one thing. I didn't know that for a while That I was hesitant to coil right after they would have, because that's the worst thing ever. If you waste your coil as a warlock, you're losing like a massive tempo swing. But you can. So as soon as they would have, just follow it up with a coil, and keep the pain train rolling.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, burn the undeads. Will the Forsaken. You definitely want to do that. I mean, especially if you think it's going to be a somewhat long fight.
Yeah, and if you're opposed to add-ons, then read your combat log and recognize that they've popped it.
Yep. So I'm looking at starting trinkets and offhands against a druid if you're fighting one. I have to say one good point that I learned from Swifty, because Swifty was fighting in one of the dual tournaments, Cricks, and if someone is like bandaging, right, and you're a druid and you're from range, what do you try to do to stop them if they're bandaging? You moonfire them, right? You freaking moonfire them. If you spellstone bandage, like they can't interrupt your bandage.
Big brain.
So they're
Yep.
if you have a moonfire ticking on you, right? It doesn't matter if they're feared off into oblivion. You can spellstone and just fully bandage yourself up. So spellstone is a consideration here, I will say.
That's dirty.
Yeah.
That's how you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, spellstone bandage. It's an absorb, baby. It's an absorb. So that's a trinket option. I'm just thinking of attrition type stuff. Is there anything interesting here with trinkets or offhands versus druid?
Not really.
My offhand's always going to be a spellstone against a druid. Trinkets. I mean, you don't want to net a druid. It's kind of useless.
Very true.
Because they could just shapeshift out of it. So I guess for trinkets, maybe I would probably prefer on-use damage trinket. If I have two, I can't think of. I mean, all right, if I had the
Toep.
yeah, Toep. If I had
Title would be huge if you had that, right?
Yeah, title Toep.
yeah, title charm. I mean, if I have title charm,
I think we should leave
probably
title
going
charm
title.
out of the discussion from now on, because it's going to be
It's
this
gonna
in
be
every
the best. Yeah,
situation.
Yeah.
it's true. Warlocks don't have an
Oh, that's
on-demand stun, right? Other than Inferno. My bad. Inferno, because Infernal is sick. It's actually sick. But other than
I forget
Infernal,
about that for a lot of times, to be honest.
yo, Infernal is sick though. Like it actually is, dude. If you rocket helm into like soul max range Soulfire Infernal, you can do some flashy shit as a Warlock, dude. It's pretty sweet. The one thing I will say, against matchups where you're a Warlock and you're fighting someone and you know that it's not a really high tempo matchup and you're not just gonna get friggin' killed within a matter of a few critical seconds, and you're playing the long game, one thing that I would recommend you do is start with the Oni book in your offhand, right? The Ancient Cornerstone Grimoire. Pop that skeleton, then throw on the Spellstone, whatever, because you know that it's highly unlikely the druid's going to be able to pressure you into a situation where you need that Spellstone in that next 30 seconds. So pop that guy. That freaking skeleton is a big slapper. He is no joke. And
Relentless.
yeah, and it's something that you should keep in mind.
Yeah, or you could pop a spellstone early to mind game him into thinking you used your only spellstone and swap into another spellstone. And, there's a lot of stuff you could do against it.
Absolutely. All right.
For me, in a good trink, it's going to be a goblin mortar against the druid.
You have me interested in this mortar.
Yeah, you got
It's a really strong trinket, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's the reason I went goblin engineering, is because you can reload it really cheap, and 4-second AOE stun that crits for as much as a thorium grenade crits for. It's just a
that was one of the first things I crafted when Classic came out. I had my rocket helmet like level 40 or something. I crafted all the mortar and stuff, and I didn't have any success with it. But I think I was just using it wrong, man. I didn't know all this stuff about it. Right? I'm gonna give it another shot. Thanks to you, Namtar. I'm actually hyped for it.
If you're going to like DM North and you're with a group and you see a group of people stacked up behind it, and you have one guy open the door and open with a mortar, it's devastating.
Yeah, and people might think, hey, it's got limited charges. I don't know about that. I'm already broke. It doesn't take that much to refill it. I think you just need one bar or something like that.
It's
and then,
one mithril bar and 3 solid blasting powder. I think maybe 2 solid blasting.
It's nothing, bro. That's like a quarter of a Maraudon run right there. Like, so don't even worry about the charges too much. About replacing it. It takes a little time, right? But all right, let's move on to the next one. We have Hunter. How do you guys? I'm gonna quickly run to the restroom. What do you guys think about Hunter? About the matchup?
A really, really good hunter might they might serve it up to you. I mean, they might.
Yeah.
BM hunters, I personally find a little bit harder to deal because of the constant pushback, the pet hitting so hard. I don't believe you can now. If the pet's enraged, you can't fear it. The Vipers thing, like usually, I'm gonna have more problems versus a BM hunter, but I'm really not gonna have too many problems.
Yeah, and is that the PvP spec for them?
Well, I mean, usually they're gonna be BM or they're gonna be what's the other spec? Marksmanship. Usually it's marksmanship I run into.
Yeah, I run into very few BM hunters right now. It might be more common in BGs though, because it is a really strong.
It is pretty strong. Now, like one of the things I'm always doing is it's rank 3 life tap or maybe rank 4. I don't want to tap myself to death against a hunter because a smart hunter is going to viper sting you. Now if there's serpent stinging you, you can really just laugh at that and just, the serpent sting, it isn't going to be too much of a problem, but it's going to be the constant mana drain on you. But if you don't have any mana, that's fine because you can just rank 3 life tap, get a dot up, rank 3, So it's really watching your mana and your health against a hunter.
Yeah, for me, hunters are one of the, at least in this phase, they pump damage, man, and their opening volley pushback is insane. So, and then a really good hunter is going to keep you at 41 yards and viper sting until you're But what I try and do, if I see a hunter targeting me, I'm immediately fell doming into a void walker if I don't have one out, sacking my void walker and fearing that hunter like as fast as I can.
Yeah, well, another thing is, I actually personally, I'm always going to have my fell hunter out against a hunter because they're probably going to scatter trap you. As soon as that trap's up, bam, just dispel that right off yourself. And then, now they're close. Now you can dead zone them.
Dude, that is actually so sick. I have to confess, I've never done that because I always have a different pet versus hunter. That's actually insane, though.
You gotta, I always am using my fell hunter because I don't know if you guys saw Voivod 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say that one. Veil Hunter is crazy against Hunter.
Yeah, they can't trap you. Just dispel, goodbye. And now, since you scatter trap, feign death, now they're right there. Now they're just going to have to be wing clipping you. I mean, personally, the problems I'm going to have are going to be a BM hunter, probably. Now, this happened to me. This was on a private server. I didn't know this was even possible. A BM hunter just managed to find me, send in his pet, from so far away. And I was like, where is this dude? And I found him. I couldn't get to him though because I kept having his pet on me, and so I was like, all right. So I ran into this is an AB. I ran into the main starting room or whatever. I kept killing his pet over and over and over and over, and I'm thinking, well, dude, his pet's gonna get mad now. And on private servers in PvP, their pets don't get mad and they won't run away. But yeah, he would just kept sending his pet in. There's literally nothing I could do about that. So that's just, I don't know if that's the same way it is in Classic, though.
I struggled sometimes with hunters until I started using.
So you started using what?
Veil Hunter.
Oh.
And then it became way easier.
Interesting. From a hunter perspective, because I've PvP'd on a hunter, played hunter primarily. I was always most frustrated by the Void Walker double sack when I was fighting Warlocks. I just felt like they had so much gas, but it's interesting. I see what you mean here.
Yeah, for me, hunters, at least right now, they have so much pushback and open burst that I would rather sack a Void Walker and try and get the hunter CC'd than deal with their pet. But I can understand wanting to have a fell hunter out.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm playing Soul Link, actually, yeah, no matter what, I'm probably gonna want the fell hunter, especially if I'm playing Soul Link, because I'm still very tanky. It's always going to happen. The scatter trap, you break that, you're right there in their in the range of dead zoning, you know. So that's my
Another-
personal take on it. But the Feldam sacrifice is also good too.
Yeah, another thing, the macro for scatter trap is a macro you have to spam. Most hunters just do it by muscle memory, and if you pop a freeze reflector, you're immune to that frost trap.
Oh yeah, another huge one. The one thing I will say versus Hunter that makes it, I still think it's favored versus Hunter, at least given my playstyle, is you can just coil into fear on them and then like chase down that fear. This is another just broad overarching tip when you're fearing targets. Try to chain another fear off of it. Like, you know, like really try to not give them even a second to interact with their character. Like as soon as my fear, I throw like maybe 2 dots on, 3 dots maybe, I'm already trying to get as close as possible so I can get within range to get that next fear connection on it and get full value from your fear DR. It just puts you further and further ahead so that you can just train tank the rest of the way if need be. But you can coil into a fear on hunters, and their PvP trinket does not break fear, right? So that is what you're trying to do. You're trying
Yeah,
to
I was gonna say on Hunter, it's one of the few fights where I will openly use a death coil, even though I don't need the health to get into a fear, and it's really, I think Hunter versus Warlock comes down to whoever gets the opener first is gonna win the fight.
Rockin' Helmet the pet too. Another one you can another just big.
Yeah, there's
do
also
that.
an engineering item called Flash Bomb that fears pets. It'll fear druids as well, but it's got a 4-second
That is
cap.
true.
Holy shit, that's actually crazy.
Yeah, we've totally forgot that. I've totally forgot about that. Flash bombs against druids when they're in their beast form. Flash bombs against hunter. That's a great point to bring up. Yep.
Yo, that's sick.
I usually try to fear the pet. Like I'll try to fear the pet, especially if the hunter's just like trying to line of sight me and he's just like, you know, sending his pet in.
Yeah, for me, that's what I originally did against hunters, but a full T1 hunter right now does so much damage with their crits, especially if they get their aim shot off, that I just
sure.
I focus the hunter first and deal with the pets push. Like I think
if I see you
just overrated.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No,
But if
it's all good.
Casting aim shot on me, I'm gonna coil them. I'm gonna stop them from casting aim shot.
Totally
the coil fear definitely. I mean, again,
I really
they
wish
don't
we had
have,
40-yard nameplates.
Yeah.
I asked one of a top hunter guy, and he said the BG spec was MM survival.
I totally forgot about Flash Bomb, dude. How am I still learning about this game? This is so sick.
I actually need to make some. I still need my like reflector trinkets. I've been slacking so much in game lately.
It's all good. Kelwolf, thank you very
Yeah.
much for the Twitch Prime, bro. Appreciate it, Kelwolf.
But I don't think the Warlocks have a very good counter to BM hunters. I think their pet's just going to soul you even if you CC down.
Yeah.
They're hard. They're harder to deal with.
Like, you
A
shouldn't be
BM
running to a
hunter,
lot of BM
harder.
hunters, I heard. Yeah,
But
marksman survival. They should.
Yeah, hunters definitely become a lot more manageable as time goes on, though. Their gear doesn't scale as well. Right now, they're just rough to do.
I think if I was playing Hunter right now, I'd definitely get the Intim and Scatter build where you can you're gonna miss out on Bestial Wrath, but it'll give you more control, especially with all this batching and making the whole Feign Death Trap, Scatter Feign Death Trap combo a little bit harder to execute and stuff. I would want more control, so I don't know if I'd get Bestial Wrath, but as far as lost conditions versus a Hunter, you touched on it. They open up on you from absolute max range, send the pet in, get the Viper Sting ticking, right? And they're just able to play keep away because they're open under the best possible conditions to your up.
Yeah, and unless you have like rocket boots equipped or something, you're not gonna beat a hunter that knows how to hit that 41-yard sweet spot.
Yeah,
that's true.
You're on a clock, right?
Another
Is that fair to
side
say?
note-
Versus a Hunter, you're on a clock with the Viper Sting.
Yeah, I would honestly say the matchup's probably even and comes down to whoever has more game knowledge. But
Can you fail hunter?
Hunter's slightly.
No, it's a poison. You need you can use Curzon Jungle Remedy though to take it off. Yeah, I think from.
Well, those poison.
Well, Viper Sting's
potions.
spammable, so it's kind of hard.
Uh,
You could use a jungle remedy, and then there's also poison
Restored
resistance
potion.
which are spammable. But I mean, that's gonna be expensive to spam that. You could do that, but another side note is I'm dotting the pet because I'm on a proc shadow. I want to proc Nightfall, right?
ring
Or
one,
I want to just. I'm always gonna dot their pet.
Yeah,
If I
good to know. All good tips. All right, Let's move on to the next one. The mirror match. This is this is my weakest matchup by far for me. It's something that, I don't know, I still hold my own, but it's something that I'm very excited to discuss about you guys. Favorite or unfavorite, I guess, would pertain to what spec you are versus another spec. What spec do you think would be the best versus fighting another Warlock?
Like matching specs, or
I don't know, man. I mean, how do we unpack the mirror matchup here?
I think the obvious answer is going to be Soul Link Shadowburn, just for sustain, because Warlock versus Warlock comes down to a battle of GCDs, I think.
Who's doing what at the right time, spell stuff.
I would agree.
Right.
Fell Hunter out.
I think
Yeah,
SM
who's getting
Ruin
their
would be
fear
the
out?
second best, but I would have to say Soul Link is probably the best spec to verse another Warlock at.
There's a couple more pieces that get added to the equation here with man, these big gifts slow down the stream. Let me delete it. So your Shadow Absorb. What is it? Shadow Ward? Is that what
Yeah.
it's called? Shadow Ward, right?
Yeah.
I'm tripping.
Yeah.
So you have that, and you also have Banish. These are two new abilities that come into the fray. With Warlock, it's important to keep just continuously. I feel like if I were to look back on the dual link tournaments we've done, I feel like there's a few I could tighten it up with getting that Shadow Absorb up, but you're really trying to attrition out the other guy as much as possible. Pull that up. There's some RNG with it though too, which is really unfortunate. With
Yeah, I
What's the
mean, like
difference of getting
a
a Nightfall
Soul Link. Yeah, a Soul Link Warlock that has their 5-piece, you're kind of just playing roulette, trying to banish their pet, even if you have Curse of Shadows up on it. But I think that's the only way SM Ruin is beating a Soul Link Warlock is if they banish the pet before they get burned down. I think those are the two matchups you could discuss. I don't think Conflag really has a place in that fight.
Yeah, it's true.
And they said it in the chat. The difference is, are you both undead, or is one undead and one?
Undead definitely has the edge, man. I know about dueling Funky Pot. He freaking owns me. He's just a better player, but Undead definitely helps him as well. Yeah, so Pet, it's a battle of Fell Hunters. You're trying to banish. I really maybe more than I should value controlling the Pet. I really try to connect with the banish, and I will try to do the most high tempo play that allows me to get a banish off and control the Pet. And I will sometimes pre-cast the banish and just try and keep that banish going on that Pet as much as possible.
Me personally, I'm putting a Curse of Shadows up before I go for the banish, and if I notice it's resisting more than 2 times, I kind of abandon the idea of it and get back into burning.
Yeah, you want to Curse of Shadows before you banish, because you're probably going to get resisted. If I'm fighting a Soul Link Warlock, I need to banish. It's that, or I have to kill the pet. It's because Soul Link's just so hard to deal with, as anything, no matter what you are fighting a Soul Link Warlock. So the way we're going to get rid of Soul Link is by banishing the pet or killing the pet. So that's what I'm going to probably try to do,
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of other factors that come into, like if you have your rocket helm up or a gnomish cloaking device and you can get it off without dots on you, then you can get a fear bomb in on the Warlock and the pet to buy yourself more.
It depends on what they're using for a pet. If they're using Succubus, I'm just going to dot the Succubus. I'm going to focus on the Warlock because it's going to die quick. You got to be careful, like if they're using a Fell Hunter, because you can't really get away with rocket helming them. They're just gonna, purge it off themselves. Also, you can get locked while trying to banish. So it's, it's kind of a toss-up. I would, if it's a dueling situation, and you're both Soul Link, it's really just going to come down to, skill, really, or, your cooldowns, or I don't know if people are, whatever consumes or utility that you can use, really. But yeah, Soul Link's just so hard to deal with, so.
Yeah, it's hard to know whether you want to offensively dispel or defensively dispel on with the Fell Hunter as well. It's tough. I try to defensively dispel to try and give myself the best shot of getting out of fears with because the fear game is is big, right? And that's another RNG factor. Sometimes you'll just fear the other guy, and it'll just freaking last forever, and they're just so far behind. That'll happen to you as well, and it just sucks. But you just gotta.
I mean, I could think of situations where if you were patient, you could like rocket helm the pet, then death coil the warlock into like a goblin mortar, into a tidal charm, into a fear while you're spending your GCDs on Curse of Shadows and shit like that. But that's pretty far-fetched situations.
That's 100% what I usually do, man. I rocket on the pet and just try and generate as much tempo into controlling that pet. I'll do whatever it takes, man, to keep that pet under control. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, rocket helming the pet, but then again, if they're soul link, like we were talking about earlier, you're gonna break that break that rocket helm. So
well, something you can do, and I don't know if it would work, but spell batching works with the rocket helm, so you can precast a death coil as you use rocket helm, and it doesn't break the rocket helm when the death coil connects for whatever reason. I can share a video with you guys on how all that works, but I haven't tested it in game, so I don't know if it would break the pet or not.
Murderer, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub, bro. 2 months in a row. Really appreciate you, bro. Good to see you in here. Big Murder. Starting trinkets and offhands. Gotta have reflector in there, right? Shadow reflector, big plays. Very important. Offhand spellstone, multiple ranks of spellstone, dude. And you wanna when's the best time to pop that spellstone too, man? Like once you wait for.
I think if it's in a duel, you pop your first spellstone as the duel is starting, but if it's in an open world, you save that spellstone until you're low on.
I'm probably going to pop my spellstone when I have all their dots on. I probably am not going to open with the spellstone because that can be purged. So, I probably am going to wait till they have all their dots on me, then I'm going to spellstone it all off. And then I'm going to hopefully try to do it again. It's, the mirror match is difficult, really. It all has to do with what spec you are, what spec they are, and just outplaying each other,
Well, let's think this through. The merits of offensively or defensively dispelling with your Fell Hunter when you're in a mirror matchup. I have a thought right now as I'm looking at some of the feedback in the chat. People saying you can devour Spellstone as well. That is true. So I usually defensively dispel, but I'm starting to think that I'm an idiot because you're always going to have multiple dots on you. You're going to roll the dice and see if you can get out of that fear, right? And it's kind of, you're always going to be able to reapply the dots, right? Whereas opposed to if you offensively dispel, hopefully you can strip them down to the point that, like, maybe by the time that second Devour or third Devour comes up and they Spellstone, you can take it off reliably. What am I missing?
Well, something else to keep in mind, too, is if they have the same knowledge as you, you can be spamming, like, rank 1 Corruption on them to waste their Devour and things like that.
Yeah, you could. That's a little, like, next level. I'm personally, because I'm undead, so I got Boulder Forsaken. Now, if I use my Boulder Forsaken, now I might think, I might want to save this Devour for a fear if they get it off. But I'm going to try to save my my silence, my spell lock for when they're casting fear, or if for some reason they're draining life on me, I'm automatically going to spell lock them. I want to lock them out of shadow, right? Because I don't want to get feared.
It's actually so tough.
Another thing is, and I also, if I see the shadow ward, I'm going to try to devour magic that. And another thing is, Searing Pain and Immolate is going to, hurt the warlock.
Yeah, the pushback from Searing Pain is pretty gnarly.
Yeah. So, don't ignore Searing Pain and Immolate, because when you see a Shadow Ward, now you can mask a Shadow Ward with a Shadow Reflector. You can actually make a macro, or you could just be really quick about it, and then it would all just be one. It would look like you're Shadow Warding, but really you're Shadow Warding and reflecting.
Right. Yeah, that's a big brain play. I actually have not done that yet, but I need to start factoring
Something else
that.
I like. I personally like to. I have rank 1 Curse of Wreck and rank 1 Corruption bound, and if I see a shadow reflector go up, I cast both immediately.
Yeah, I mean it's not a bad idea. That's for sure.
So there really maybe there is no answer here. What's up, Leaks Pickles? Thank you very much for the Twitch Prime sub, bro. Good to see you in here, man. Whether you offensively or defensively dispel, because there's merits of defensively dispelling in the sense that you can wipe the slate clean with the spellstone and sort of give yourself a better shot at dispelling something huge. Versus offensively, dude, this is huge though. What do you got? What is your gut telling you?
I think they're 50-50. You got to be paying attention to what's going on in the fight and know what you're supposed to be doing. If their Fell Hunter's Devour is off cooldown, then maybe it's better to defensively, purge, and if it's on cooldown or off cooldown, then maybe it's better to offensively.
Me personally, I'm going to offensive dispel more than I am defensive, and that is again because I'm undead. Now, if like I said before, if I use Will of Forsaken, I know I don't have any other fear break. I might back off, but I'm going to try to purge their Shadow Ward. I'm going to try to purge even their buff, their demon armor. I'm going to try to purge for sure the Spellstone if they use it. So. Me personally, I'm gonna push the offense and then just try to push the damage in there.
Another thing too, the blanket CS effect of the Fell Hunter, you can dispel that as well, right? So it's like there's so much, man. I don't know if the chat feels a certain way. Offensive or defensive dispel, you just have to make a decision.
Same can be said for mages. You could get counterspelled by a mage. You could dispel that off your.
Yeah,
so.
It is true.
I'm probably just going to eat it, though. I don't know. Unless I get totally locked out of School of Magic, then I might, but, I mean, it depends, It depends on what happens when. But usually, I'm going to try to push the offense.
Yeah.
And that's why I value banishing the pet so highly, too, is because you remove that from the equation and you've got a huge advantage.
Yep. Meaning two big
somebody
pieces.
in chat wanted to know if you can dispel Soul Link with your Fell Hunter. No, you cannot. But you could on private servers. But no, you cannot on Classic. So, otherwise, I would say you want to get rid of Soul Link with your Fell Hunter, but you can't.
Yeah, and as far as I know, the range on Soul Link is infinite, so you would have to banish the pet and then kite the Warlock far enough for their pet to dispel.
Yeah, which, I mean, no good Warlock should ever let their pet dispel.
Now here's another question for you, too. With, think about this. When I fight another Warlock and we both have Fell Hunters out, I have the Fell Hunter trying to attack the Warlock, right? Doesn't that just make sense? There's no downside, pushback.
Right, yeah, you want to, give them some pushback.
Right, I mean,
yeah, definitely.
Sometimes you get used to the idea of either parking your Fell Hunter off in a weird location so he doesn't get fear bombed, or maybe it's not advantageous to hit the warrior and give him more rage, or the paladin, or whatever. But in this matchup, you'd want to have the pet attacking.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Especially if you have your 5Ps.
Yep. Throw the trash buffs up on yourself as well, right? The detect invisibility, the underwater breathing. You want to throw that stuff up too. If you have noggin fogger, whatever you got, man, whatever you got, throw it up.
I even do it on my pet. I believe in trash buff my pet. I don't know why I used to do this was because Soul Link on private servers used to be dispellable, and you would target the pet and then dispel the pet and get rid of Soul Link. That's not the case now, but still I still do that. I don't know why, but I guess just to do it, but you don't have to.
Okay. All right, let's move on. So next one up is the Mage. We have 4 more to go. We'll try to make some good progress through these. So Mage, how do you guys feel about the matchup? Favored? Not favored? Fair?
Favored.
I'd say it's close to even, but I think Warlock is slightly favored. Yeah, against an undead mage as alliance, it becomes more problematic.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. If you're fighting undead as alliance, it will definitely be a problem. I would say that we're favored by a lot. I personally, number one, if we're Soul Link, we're way beyond favored. Number,
Oh yeah.
we have a lot of things we can do here. We have Spell Zone, absolutely huge. You know, we also shouldn't be sheepable. You know, you if you can spell lock um, to stop the sheep. Now, if you spell lock a mage when they're casting sheep, that locks them out of arcane. Okay, not a lot of mages are going to be like you know, some people in the CDL like that are just going to run up in your face, and you know that you that's typically not going to happen. And also sheep dispelled right off yourself. And then you can always use your Skull of Impending Doom. So you really shouldn't be getting sheep too much, and you should always be you should lock the mage. I try to go for frost, but also I don't want to get sheep. So
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're aware, but you can also batch a demonic rune to break.
yeah, that's another thing. That's another thing that wasn't known in private servers, but with spell batching, yep. Actually, I haven't tested this. Somebody said that you could spell batch a life tap. I'll have to see if that's a thing. I'll have to see if that's a thing. If you can life tap and then break sheep. If that is, then I mean, you know.
So, yeah, I think we're favored as well. My favorite opener against the mage, where I feel like it's really nice. I think maybe I overdo it with the blanket silences, but I like to use the blanket silence and get 100% value from it in a controlled setting that I can 100% guarantee. So when I fight a mage, I will often blanket silence into a fear right off the bat. If they're undead, they're gonna WOTF, unfortunately. You coil them off that, you get them into the fear. You want them to aggressively block and predict them to aggressively block, because a good mage is just gonna be blocking, block, all day, every day. And you want to precast fears off the block, do everything you can, get them to use those blocks. And then, well, they're going to try and set up a shatter on you, right? And then Nova you, whatever. They're not going to be casting stuff at you. Like, they're not just going to be able to just hard cast Frostbolts at you. The good mages are going to try and get in range of both you and your Fell Hunter, and you're going to be spamming instants up in your face. Cone of Gold, Arcane Explosion, all this type of stuff.
Yeah, they're going to drop a Pyro Blast. They're basically trying to AoE you and your pet down at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And your pet can get cleaved down. It's somehow, like, the mages does so much damage. Like, you have to consider keeping your pet off somewhere else, because it really can get fucked up.
I think it's largely spec dependent. Like, if we're talking Soul Link, it's obviously favored in the Warlock's favor, but SM Ruin and Conflict can be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. One thing I like to do that this is just my personal one thing I like to do. I always try to use my Death Coil as a heal. Now, if I'm Death Coiling a mage, I'm going to Death Coil the mage. I'm instantly going to start casting Soulfire, right? And then about 2 seconds, I'm going to Blanket Silence him. And then I'm going to hit him with the Soulfire.
That's sick, dude.
And then after the Soulfire, I'm going to Shadow Burn him.
That's
so
actually
he's gonna sit there, and he's gonna, because usually a mage isn't gonna, like, they always like wait for the Soulfire to come out, then they ice block, right?
Yeah.
Now you can't ice block. You're gonna get Soulfire and you're gonna get Shadow.
You have to wait a little bit longer though, right? You have to wait 3 seconds before you.
I think it's 2. I think 2 seconds. Because the blanket should be 3.
Something else you can do too, because of spell batching, if you're casting your Soulfire and you're expecting them to try and block it, you can Rocket Helm as your Soulfire's got about a second left. It still goes off with the travel time of the Rocket Helm. It keeps casting because of batching, and the Soulfire will not break the stun from the rocket.
Yeah, I was watching.
Sick,
who
dude.
made that video? Somebody.
A mage made it. He was like doing 8k damage naked with a Rocket Helm. It was ridiculous.
There's a lot of things you can spell batch with a Rocket Helm. But yeah.
So wait. But there's a projectile time to the Soulfire, right? So like if you Soulfire for a couple seconds and then you blank it, by the time that projectile travels all the way to the mage, you're in dangerous territory. That it makes because
You know what? I don't think so. I don't think so, but I'll definitely let you know soon when Battlegrounds come out, because that's one of my favorite moves, or at least it was on private servers.
It's a very interesting line, dude. I'm very, very intrigued by this. The soul fire into blanket silence. That is a freaking awesome thing. Okay.
And then if for some reason you get you get counterspelled, you could just start pumping in Shadow Ball. Like a counterspell, usually you can purge this off yourself, but usually I don't even care about it. I don't want to be sheeped. That's all, right?
Yeah, and you won't be if you ever fell into out, right? You'll be unless they
on it. And something else against mages that's really important is free action potions, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Like it makes the fight so much easier if you fat before you start the fight.
My preferred potion actually is healing potion, man. I don't know. I like when I'm up against it plays to my win condition because I like to be like as beefy as possible with as much health as possible, as much stam as possible, over 6k health, and to just outgas people instead of out finesse people. So it also depends, what consumable. That's the cool thing. Like you have to choose what consumable is going to fit the way you're itemized, the way you're spec'd, the way your playstyle is. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think with Soul Link, you definitely want major healing potions, and Healthstone are all you need. You can save a lot of gold.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen some people. Can you?
Yeah, you're back. We can hear you now.
I muted myself. My bad. I can hear some people saying that you can also rank with Hellfire, obviously, to get, and then when they Shadow Ward, you can siphon life them, or whatever. And then if they paw you, it pops you right back out.
That's pretty sick.
Another thing I like to do sometimes against mages, if they have snares on me or whatever, or some reason I need to use my Spellstone, or I just want to use my Spellstone, I do like to keep my Gnomish Cloaking device equipped. And then what I'll do is I'll Spellstone and then Cloaking device, send in my pet, and then Soulfire. Because that way you're getting rid of all the snares, you're sending your pet in, you have the absorb already. So then when you send that Soulfire in, now you're out of cloak, and they're like, oh, I'm basically dead, and he has the Spellstone up, so I might as well just uninstall the game at that point. So.
Yeah, mages have a rough time. Another thing you can Spellstone bandage on. Like, you just have so much gas versus a mage that it's very, very tough. And with that in mind, from the mage's perspective, mages chiming in the chat here, you're just trying to tempo the Warlock out as hard and as fast as possible. You're trying to go full Zug and just... You're not winning the long game versus the Warlock. You're trying to just kill him right then and there and hope he forgets to pop a bunch of his shit. And that's...
Yeah. Something I try to do against mages, too, is to try and get them to blink as early as possible so they don't have that. Because mages, at least on my server, they just run away when they're losing the fight, and they dip. And it's annoying.
But they get away too.
Yeah, if you don't have Curse of Exhaustion or something like that to put on them, then you gotta take that into consideration. Maybe a net or a rocket home. Oh yeah,
all the time.
You also have to hedge, right? So a mage is going to block a couple times in your duel, and if you don't hedge and you go Toep, Soulfire, Shadowburn, he's gonna block that, right? So one thing you can do is you can kind of stagger your cooldowns a little bit, right? And a good mage is gonna wait until that projectile is flying through the air before they commit to a block. The worst thing ever is you waste a bunch of time casting a Soulfire, thinking you're a big brain, and canceling it the last second, and the mage holds the block, right? So, you're gonna have to commit some resources, but make it as equitable as a trade as possible, and don't commit to the Soulfire Shadowburn with toe up all in one thing, and he blocks it and gets massive value out of the block, right? So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, that's another big one.
Another thing I'll do against a mage, whenever I see the mage, right, I'm going, if he has like half mana or less, I'm probably gonna start draining. I'm probably just gonna start draining him, Now,
I usually wait till about 20% mana before I use drain mana, but yeah, it's definitely useful against.
Oh, and really, the first thing I do is when I'm up against a mage, depending on my spec, not if I'm deep destro, but I'm usually SM Ruin. I'm gonna put a corruption on them all the time. That's the first thing I'm always putting on them is corruption, because mages can decurse. So
Yep. Here's another thing on that note. Tongues versus Agony. I used to be a big Tongues guy, but then you realize that mages are casting instants for the most part. They're not really hard casting much. You still mess with them a little bit, but especially if you have like Amplify Curse, like try and, you know, maybe throw an Agony on there, wait for them to decurse it, then use an Amp Agony. And I was talking to Funky Pot after one of our duel tournaments. His philosophy on it was that if you have Amplify available, 9 times out of 10 he's going to amplify the Agony, even in a situation where Tongues is going to be really problematic for them.
Well, that's the thing too. The mages on my server that are really good are not double ice block frostbolt mages. They're running like weird specs with pyroblast and shit like that mixed in. I don't know enough about the talents to say exactly what they're spec'd into, but they're not hard casting frostbolts and shit like that.
Mm-hmm. Would you guys agree that Agony is the go-to? Would you curse for?
Yeah, I think mages have a smaller health pool too, so burning down their health and getting them worried is ideal.
Yeah, usually. I mean, if I know that the mage is gonna try to create some distance because they just drained him or he's low on health, I might curse the Tongues there, especially if I know I can't get up to it, get to him. Or if I know he can't, decurse himself, then I might curse the Tongues. But Amp Agony, usually.
I think it could be argued that there's value in Curse of Tongues too to slow down the poly cast, but after that, switch to Agony.
Yeah, I feel like poly is so easy to get out.
Yeah, if you don't have a Fell Hunter out, right?
It really is really easy to get out.
Yeah, but you may not have a Fell Hunter out too, or it may be dead, or whatever the case may be too. So there is that case. Like sometimes, even with my 5-piece, somehow the mage kills my Fell Hunter. I don't get it. They just do sick damage or something. Like somehow they are able to do it.
That's the other thing about Spellstones. A mage will eat through that thing really fast. The damage absorption.
Mm-hmm. Mages do sick damage. They really do. They really do. And you want to be careful with where your Fell Hunter is at. I can't stress that enough. I would rather park my Fell Hunter and have it do no pressure and push back to that mage, so it doesn't get cleaved down by his shit. Even with his 5-piece spell resistance, man. Like somehow he'll die. So keep him just stationary. And then if the mage is trying to reset on you and run away, you can send the Fell Hunter to chase after him, right, to keep him in combat. But yeah.
It seems like not like there's a different way to play mages now. At least from what I've seen, normally mages didn't run into you. Like I see Zaryu playing different. I think he's a great mage player, but I never really ran into mages that were just kind of running into me and doing a lot of instant cast stuff. So it's kind of changed a little bit. I feel like for the mages, maybe. I don't know. Like, usually I wasn't dealing with quote-unquote battle mages on private servers too much.
I got you. Yeah, there's been definitely some shifts in the meta come the real thing.
That's what it seems like.
Yep. Trinkets and offhand, Spellstones. Trinkets would be Frost Reflector, be huge. People say... Yeah. I mean, what would anything noteworthy with the Trinkets offhands?
I don't really value Frost Reflector that high against the mage, personally. Yeah. So many people have weak auras now that they can see it's popped and they just won't cast a Frostbolt.
Kind of right, actually. And
I'd have to think about what I'm going to use. Probably a Goblin Mortar again. And
something Voivod said a lot in his videos is a Flash Deflector.
I was just going to bring that up. And you know what? I was talking with Van Ruki. I told Van Ruki on one of his streams, I said, why don't you use a ice deflector? It doesn't share a cooldown with anything. It also, it has its own cooldown. It doesn't put you on cooldown with grenades or potions or anything. It's 600 absorb. That's free. You could also use it to mask ice. Well, really, because people don't know about it, but he told me, it's just not that good. I don't see why. I don't even think it uses
free
PCD.
I never knew this item existed, fam. I'm telling you, I'm learning from this channel.
Videos for while.
I am learning from these gentlemen, chat. Like, this shit is super productive even for myself. Ice deflector. I thought you were fucking memeing, dude. This is a real item.
No.
And it's its own cooldown and everything, dude. I'm very
Yeah,
appreciative
but
for this stuff.
there's also a fire deflector, which is kind of hard to find. You have to get that at the end of Domer. It's really hard if you like find somebody that can make them. Now, they do not. They will override each other on like frost protection potions and the protection potions. I'm pretty sure they'll override each other. But yeah, I was even talking with on Van Rookie. I managed to catch him on a stream, and he's like, what's a deflector? Not many people know about the ice deflectors, the fire deflectors, not the trinkets. They're just on-use items. And then for some reason, I don't know, Van Rookie said that he doesn't think it's a good idea, blah, blah, blah. But I don't see why it wouldn't be. It's a free 600 absorb.
Unless it shares some cooldown with something else weird, like maybe it shares cooldown with Hellstone. There's some weird interactions out there.
It doesn't share cooldown with anything. Also, since not a lot of people know about the ice deflectors, you use an ice deflector, they're thinking you're using an ice reflector.
That's so true.
So now they're going to stop now they're going to stop casting.
Yep.
Right, and that lasts a whole minute of that. That
is so true. And it takes a frost oil and a whirring bronze gizmo. The whirring bronze gizmo is dirt cheap, right? And the cool thing about frost oil is that for those of you who are farming Darmal East, there's those Khadgar's whiskers, which I used to just vend there because I was like, what is this bullshit? It doesn't make anything good, right? But it can actually make frost oil, the Khadgar whisker, and also Winter's Right drops there as well. So ever since that happened, you can make frost oils like pretty cheap as long I farm DM East with my mage and my lock does Mardon, but that's very, very cool, man. I gotta freaking start doing that. That's
so
huge.
cheap, so cheap. I don't see why people don't use them. Like, I don't know if they're banned in the CDL, but I'd be using those, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Yep.
I had read about them, but I completely forgot about them, to be honest. Now I'm worrying more about my bag space.
Right. There's so much crazy stuff.
Hey, yo, can we get Ani bag prio to Warlocks? I mean,
Warlocks and Hunters should have Ani bag prio, man.
Yo, just Warlocks. Come on,
Dude, can we have him justice for locks, please? Hashtag justice for locks. Can we get Oni bag prio across all guilds, across classic? Like, we are hurting the most for inventory space out of everybody. I'm telling you. All right. Let's go to the next one. Rogue is next up. We got a picture of my man Sasuke right here. That's his Rogue right there. Rogue versus Warlock. A spicy one indeed. Initial thoughts.
My initial thoughts. Sorry, go ahead.
I think a good rogue completely controls the fight if they're equally geared, especially a Viscag rogue or like a Purge dagger rogue. It's just they completely control. Even Soul Link, they can burn.
They have to be good. They have to be really good against Soul Link. Now, I think we were talking about this earlier, but if you look at the CDL, which I'm not following like really well, but look at Peo versus Snuts. If you ever see that dueling video, Peo played it right. If you're a rogue and how you're going to kill a Soul Link Warlock is you have to kill the pet. Now, what's going to happen is after you kill the pet, there's usually two things that are going to happen. Hopefully you can control the lock long enough to kill the pet. Say you do that. There's probably two things that are going to happen. Number one, it's going to be a death coil, or number two, it's going to be a Feldom. And it's really hard to stop the Feldom, but you want to gouge, sap, whatever you can do. You got to stop them from casting another pet, or you have to reflect that death coil. Now, if I know a rogue is around, I'm popping a free action potion, and then it's pretty much GG. It's pretty much GG, unless maybe a smart rogue sees me pop a free action potion. They're gonna open with an ambush.
Why wouldn't they just not open though? Why wouldn't they just run away?
They might not. Yeah, I mean,
good rogues are patient, man.
Yeah.
They might just wait it out. They might just run away, but hopefully, you can kind of mask the fact that you took a potion maybe jump or slash dance potion, whatever, however you can. But that's what I'm doing is free action potion, because more than likely the rogue is going to open with the cheap shot. A good rogue will probably open with an ambush, but what follows is usually the kidney shot, right? Which you're going to be immune to. So then you can play some distance between yourself. You want to stay out of blind rage. Now, since I'm playing SM Ruin, first thing I'm doing is trying to create distance, and then I'm gonna amplify Curse of Exhaustion and keep some distance between us. Now, another thing. Another thing is you got to make sure that you don't death coil yourself, because a good rogue is going to open on you, and then he's going to shadow reflect right after, and then you always have to watch out and not death coil yourself. But a good rogue is going to serve you up. A good rogue should serve you up.
Yeah, I talked to one of the number one rogues on Stalag, and he's like a private server junkie guy, and he can do crazy shit like vanish my succubus's seduction before it goes off to get her out of invisibility.
That's what I was gonna say.
They just have pure control if they know the matchup.
A really good rogue is like almost impossible.
And I've been running around as Soul. Like, I'm pretty well geared. Like, I have like 5.2k health with a Fell Hunter out. And the Viscag rogues, their sustain on damage after their opener is so crazy that you have to burn a lip or something like that to be able to beat them.
So during our cross-faction dual tournament number 1 on Scarum, the one that I won, I was up against Dextros, who's a really good onslaught rogue, and they give you no space to breathe. You have no space to breathe, and the only space you have to breathe is that death coil. So pretty much what you said. And the first duel we did together, I predictably death coiled, and I got it reflected and insta lost. Second duel, I took my time and made sure to death coil at a weird time, and I got it off and was able to get that CC chain off. And from that point, because there was no trinkets in the game, it was easy peasy. Once you're able to get that rogue under control, now trinkets are in the game, and the rogue trinket does break fear. So that's quite a big deal. The other thing I'd like to chime in,
as an alliance warlock too, the fear is just a non-option against rogues. They're all in.
Yeah. Another thing versus rogues is pretty much knowing you can do things like seduce after when their cheap shot's about to fall off. You seduce them with the succubus to get them under a CC chain, or you can coil them into seduce, or do whatever. But so much is on that coil. And okay, I remember what I was gonna say. You need to meet certain critical benchmarks to survive their burst. Like, you need to have a certain amount of health, like based on their gear level, right? So for me, when I dueled Dextros in the finals, I had a Voidwalker out as well as being SL, right? Or it wasn't SL. I had the Demonologist buff though, right? It had the 10% damage mitigation. Yeah, I really like having the Voidwalker out versus Rogue is my point, and getting that extra 10% physical damage mitigation. And also when they open up on you, if they try to kill the Void, they can't kill the Void in time. We tried to do multiple experiments over and over again where the Rogue tried to open up on the pet, and each time the Rogue wasn't able to kill the Void in time. Now, Voivid, you were saying that Peyo was able to kill the pet in time?
He was. Now, I can't remember exactly what he did, but that's what you got to do. You have to kill that pet if you're a rogue. Actually, maybe you don't, because I can remember one time, I forgot the guy's name. I was in a battleground. I was playing Soul Link, right? And the rogue actually put enough damage into me that I sacrificed my Voidwalker. And what he did from there, I think he blinded me, and he just waited out the sacrifice, sat me, and waited out that shield.
Oh, wow.
And then I went to Feldom, and he stopped that, and then he just jumped all over me. But usually, you kind of want to kill the pet.
Something else I'm going to say, at least in open world situations, the Cat's Eye Ultra Goggles with a Fell Hunter and a Cat's Eye Elixir lets you see rogues from like 20 yards away. It's ridiculous. If you can get an agony up on them before they can open on you, you have a much better chance of survival. I cannot stress enough how important those things.
One thing that's not out now but will be out later is Living Action Potion, because there's no way to break a stun right now. There's only a free action potion, which you have to preemptively pop,
Warlock Trinket doesn't
so I
do
know
it.
what rogues.
Yep.
A living action potion will break the stun. Okay, so I get cheap shotted at living action potion, I break the stun, and then they're gonna kidney shot, but that I'm gonna be immune to that, right? So later on, you're gonna be able to deal with rogues a little bit better when living action potion comes out.
Yeah, that's very true. It comes out during ZG. So that's the thing too. Like, yeah, if you sack your pet too early, they can vanish and try and reset or sap you and reset. You want to prevent them from resetting. So IMO, unless I'm missing something, it seems like the best thing to throw on a rogue first would be an agony. It ticks 2 seconds from now. It's gonna keep them in combat for a long time. 24-second dot. Are we all in? I mean, because if you try to get greedy and throw a shadow burn, for example, they could vanish and get the reset off or whatever. You want to prevent them from resetting, because that's the best case scenario for the rogue. They're able to deal with your pet, kill your pet, whatever, remove the pet from the equation, and then get a clean reset off and prevent you from getting that pet off. And then they're able to open up clean against you with no pet, and you're fucked.
Yeah, I would say Agony is a top priority spell against a rogue. It breaks their vanish for their reset. At that point, they're probably going to sprint and try and run away from them.
Yeah, Agony. I could see Corruption. Either one of those. You want to dot them right away. I could see Corruption because you want to kind of, if you can, proc Nightfall. But Agony lasts longer, so it's...
When Agony takes it 2 seconds, I think. Corruption.
Yeah, Corruption's at 3 seconds, Agony's at 2, and it lasts long.
What's Siphon?
Really, but yeah, Agony. Now, again, but
what's going on, too, if you're SM Ruin, you're going to want to throw an Exhaustion on the rogue, right? So they can't sprint away from you because they're ridiculously fast. So I could see Corruption there, so you don't overwrite your...
Do you, though? Because they're going to have you slowed, potentially, too. Maybe, like, does that achieve... Like, if you... Man, I guess it's got to be worth it. Right? What do you think, Chad? If you amplify... I'm trying to play this out. Rogue opens up on you. What poisons do they have on you? It could have Wound, which is pretty sick. Would the other one be Crippling? Instant? If they have you slowed and they're slowed with imp or with amplified exhaustion, how does that math out? Are you both just walking around like potatoes together right next to each other?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, basically. They're going to be slower than you if you amp exhaust, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be in range of them to blind. I don't want them to blind me. And also, you can Skull of Impending Doom, right? So it's worth to switch your offhand to Skull of Impending Doom, and if you're using a Spellstone. So that way you can try to break the blind, Skull of Impending Doom, get some distance. Because Skull of Impending Doom, if I'm in blind range, I'm using Skull of Impending Doom. Because they might try to blind me to keep me there. Or I'm just going to keep, I want to get distance away from them.
That's true. Skull is huge versus Rogue. It's just so scary. I need to get better at Skull usage because it really slaps you down like that Skull. And
you got to set up a macro to cancel the aura.
Yeah.
Or just swap to another offhand.
Netting a Rogue, again, if it backfires, GG. But, netting a Rogue.
I'm a gnome. I don't got to worry about the backfire.
Well, yeah, you don't got to worry about the back. I almost want to re-roll gnome just knowing that I can use
but in exchange, I can't fear my rogue, so...
True. Yeah, Netomatic on gnome Warlock is the nuts. Because when that backfires on you, you root yourself for what, like 30 seconds or something? It's like GG, bro, when that happens.
Yeah, and the rogue can vanish the net too, I believe.
Yeah, you also want to always send in your pet on a rogue. In a BG situation, I see a rogue from way downtown, right? I know he's just hasn't been able to stealth. I'm sending my pet in on him, and I'm following my pet all the way towards him. Now, a good rogue can what is that? Distract.
Ouch, I think.
No, they're probably going to distract the pet, and I believe distract. I've never played a rogue, but I'm almost positive distract can stop that. And then I'm going to rank 1 rain of fire around. You can always rank 1 Rain of Fire and try to get them out of combat. Now I have to test this on because it was on private servers. What I would do if I know a rogue's around, going to pop a FAPS. I'm going to put my pet on defensive, and I'm going to send in my pet if I see the rogue around, and then I'm going to start using rank 1 Rain of Fire. Now, if I hit them with a rank 1 Rain of Fire, my pet is automatically going to go towards them, because sometimes you won't have opportunity to dot them. Now, it might be different. I have actually a whole guide on how I deal with rogues. I have a whole video dedicated to them. But a lot of it, a big thing, that's missing here is Living Action Potion. I rely on that heavily, but it's not available. Also, another thing I used to rely on heavily was large rope nets. Now, those aren't available either. And some of the things have changed from the private servers I played compared to Classic. And I really haven't been super active in the PvP to be able to test that. If I put my pet on defensive and I hit them with AoE, if my pet will actually go in after
It will.
them. It should, right? It does.
Yeah, it does. Once you initiate combat, or you could just leave it on aggressive.
Quick little tip too. This is actually a huge tip. Everybody wake up if you're a Warlock. The AoE taunt on your Voidwalker will rip him out of stealth, and the Warlock will oftentimes try and vanish and scurry away. There's actually a pretty big fucking leeway range or whatever on that. It's like a demo shot or whatever. If you use that as they're trying to slip away, very good chance you pull them out of stealth, and they get so mad and they start thinking the game is broken. It's happened to me dozens of times with rogues.
They rage.
Yeah.
They rage.
Something else, on Stalag at least, the best honor farm right now is for Horde to literally come into Ironforge and hole up in the houses, and we have rogues running around nonstop. And I'm telling you, those Cat's Eye Ultra goggles with a Fell Hunter and a Cat's Eye Elixir, they hate me. They've started ganging up on me in groups of 4 to down me. I have a lot of experience against rogues because of it, and definitely run that combo if you don't like rogues.
Dude, that sounds so fun. It's like a little
You'll
mini
see
game
them
of
from
its
like
own.
15 to 20 yards. They'll try and sprint away, burn their sprint when they notice you've targeted them. It's a lot of fun.
That is actually sounds.
There was
so
there was a
fun.
rogue on our server who made a video about that Alliance rogue, and as he's explaining it, a Horde rogue opened up on him in the middle of Ironforge and killed him.
Nice.
He's
And
literally
that's the other
explaining
thing,
it, how
too,
you do it.
The rogues I've dealt with in Ironforge, at least, they don't bleed me or anything like that. They're spec'd purely to burst someone down before they get killed by like 8 Alliance, right? So maybe my vision is a little skewed on how much damage rogues with Viscag actually do, but I cannot survive even with a huge health pool. If I don't get the opener on them and get them out of stealth, they can just stun lock me, Thistle Tea, and I'm done.
The orc passive is real good versus rogues too, though. That gives you a pretty good shot across all the different stuns and stuff, especially if you're doing like a best of 5 or a best of 7 duel series. That's going to proc at very inopportune times for the for the rogue. So you're gonna. I'm speaking, of course, of the stun resist on orcs. So that's another big consideration. I guess my sort of feeling at this point in time is that in a structured duel environment, I actually believe that Warlock, if spec, in a way that can, in the right way, is favored versus rogues. But the second you start factoring in more reality into the picture, and you're just walking around with the Fell Hunter because you're just trying to be balanced across the widest spread of matchups, and you're just trying to not be too lopsided in one direction, and the rogue has full cooldowns, I would say the rogue is favored in that situation, man, against a really good rogue. In my mind.
Another thing I like to do if I have a rogue on me, or even a rogue, 2 rogues on me, is I will limit it invulnerability potion and then Hall of Terror. You're never really going to get your Hall of Terror off unless you use the limited invulnerability potion. So if you're just getting swarmed, right, lips into a Hall of Terror.
That's huge.
Rogues are killable even right now, but there's either they're around or you don't know they're around, and you have to play it differently. Now, let's say I have no idea a rogue is around, and I'm probably just out farming shards, and let's say I have my Voidwalker out. They're going to open up on me. If they open up on me with an ambush, I'm going to limit it invulnerability potion, because then I'm going to be immune to all the damage that comes, and I'm also going to be immune to that the cheap shot that's going to come. Now, if they open on me with a cheap shot, I'm going to sacrifice my Void Walker. After, as soon as I can, I'm going to dot them. I'm probably going to dot them. There's different things you can do. Now, they might shadow reflect, so it might not be a bad idea to actually use a limited vulnerability potion, so that way you don't get kidney shotted. But once living action potions come out, it's gonna be a lot easier to deal with them, because then you can just break the stun.
Are you guys preferring Void Walker over Succubus?
I prefer Fell Hunter in open world and Void Walker in a dual situation.
No, against rogues.
In the duel, if it's a duel, I'll use a Succubus, I guess. Just make sure that you don't have your Succubus. Actually, you should, if it's a duel situation and you're using either Succubus or Void Walker, never have your pet next to you. You always want to put your pet like about 20 yards away. That way you're forcing them to sprint to run to your pet, sprint back and forth.
If you're dueling on the horde side, you're going to be fighting a good amount of undead. I feel like that's the teetering point for me. If you're fighting undead, like, as they also have the trinket removes charm for rogue too. So there's two things. Also skull. If you are fighting a rogue in a duel setting, they will skull. And like they think you have the succubus out, they see it in Viz. You better believe they have a skull in their hand. Like they're gonna open on you.
Yeah, and spell batching really favors rogues a lot with a lot of their kit. I've seen rogues blind mages while they're still polyed and all kinds of crazy shit, but they can, a really high like APM rogue that knows the matchup can vanish your charm, and then your succubus is out of invis. They're gonna sprint over to it and kill it, and you're kind of screwed.
If you have Master Demonologist, it provides 10% physical damage reduction. It's very, very big versus Warlocks. And it's like ounces weigh pounds type thing. Like, every point of damage really, really counts, right? Like every tick of drain life, everything counts. So, yeah, gotta think about that. Oh, Oski Boy, thank you very much for the Twitch Prime. And Crixius, is that you, Crix?
Yep.
Oh, thanks for the Twitch Prime, Crix. Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it, brother.
I just, I don't know. It's a toss-up. I would say if I'm Soul Link, I'm going to steamroll everybody. Usually, if I'm Soul Link, I'm going to steamroll this rogue. I'm going to do him dirty with the double Void Walker sacrifice, usually. But a good dagger rogue, really good one, no matter what spec you are, should be able to kill you.
Damn.
Especially in BGs, because they're going to be sneaking around looking for you.
What if you resist? What if you resist the stun, though? You know what I'm saying, like, what if you resist this 5-point kidney shot? Or whatever?
Well, that's true. I play undead, so
yeah. I'm just true. This is
true. My personal opinion is rogue is the only class that's like favored against Warlock, Soul Link Warlock, even right now, especially more so in open world.
I wouldn't say 1v1 they're favored, unless they're really good. They have to be really good. If I'm Soul Link, they have to be really good.
Yeah. All right, we got some good stuff. We got one more or two more? We got two more.
I would put that at a draw right now.
For Trinkets against Rogue, I'd put Gnomish Cloaking Device and Netomatic on my top, because you can banish a rogue.
Good call.
I agree. Same.
All right, there's some good info on rogues there. Good info. A lot of knowledge here. A lot of huge knowledge. This is going exceptionally well, dude. I'm having the time of my life right now. We're on to Priest. Got Senor Deathcamp's face there, looking at his. That's what his character looks like. You guys haven't seen Deathcamp in game. About the matchup, I guess there's Shadow, there's Disc. There's a couple different things here. How do you guys feel about this?
Priest is scary. Priest can be scary.
I think Shadow Priest is a battle of outlasting their opening mana drain or their opening mana pool, and then you kind of have the upper hand. But those knockout procs or blackout procs are pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
Well, how I'm dealing with a priest is, number one, if I'm engaging with them, I see they have half or less than half mana. I'm going to start draining them and putting dots on them. If they are dispelling my dots, I'm going to downrank my dots, so they're just going to be dispelling trash. Dispel eats up a lot of mana. I want to get rid of their mana as fast as possible. I'm going to shadow ward myself. And now, when they start mind flaying, I should be using a Fell Hunter in this situation. You really, no matter what, a Fell Hunter in this situation. When they start mind flaying, I'm going to lock them out of shadow. Also, I'm going to try to purge them no matter what. I'm usually going to try to offensively purge the priest. There's nothing really I want to. I mean, I guess I could, maybe fear or blackout. I believe can be purged.
It's pretty huge, and they don't have a lot of dots. I usually offensively dispel as well, but it's an interesting line to explore, the defensive dispel versus priest.
It's blackout. You could do it against. I'm almost positive.
Shadow Word Pain, which you wouldn't feel too bad about. I mean, that's a super high impact dot. Then you have freaking.
That's a hard hitting dot.
Psychic Scream, right? Is that Can you dispel that? You can.
Yeah, if your pet doesn't get dispelled. Yeah.
Wait, is that hold on? You may not be able to though. I feel like theirs isn't dispellable or something. Someone in the chat's gonna know.
No, it's a fear.
It's a fear, right? Well, that's one thing about
I don't think it's a horror.
You want to keep your pet
You
away
might be
from
a warrior fear. It's considered physical and not mad.
Right. Gotta be. Well, you don't want to keep your Fell Hunter near Fearbomb range. You just want to park him off in La La Land and just have him within range. He has a pretty huge range with his abilities, right? So that's one way you can lose the matchup, man. You both get both of your guys feared, and Priest just is able to get more value than he should.
Well, we all know what a priest is. We all know what a priest is going to do if they're running towards us, right? Hopefully, we have a shadow reflector. If we see the priest running towards us, just shadow, because he's going to fear himself.
Yeah, and Shadow Priest is the one matchup where I value Curse of Shadows above anything else. You got to get that on the shadow.
Interesting. Why is that? Do tell.
They have so much shadow resist. You start burning through their health pool way more. They stack something like 120 shadow resist. I think.
Is it
with
from
their
talents
buff.
or is it from?
I think it's from talents. They have a.
Oh, they have the buff. Yeah, they have their shadow protection buff, right, or whatever.
Yeah, and then they have like a 15% chance to miss or something. But it's considered a shadow school talent, something like.
I don't know, but so the Curse of Shadows is just going to basically increase your chance to connect with them and hit them, right? But I mean, let's say you have some suppression points.
It's going to make it. Yeah, it's going to make them not resist everything else you're trying to put on them. Your drain mana is not going to get resisted. Your corruption's not going to get.
Yeah. Think about how impactful is Tongues on a priest too. They have a lot of instants, but at the same time, they eventually do have to heal.
If they go to Mind Flay. Yeah, that's the other thing too. If they start going to Mind Flay, the Curse of Shadows debuff will still apply to your Curse of Tongues that you switch over to on that application. So it's a good chance to get that Curse of Tongues off. And everything I've been told is that channeled Mind Flay does get affected by Curse of Tongues.
Yeah, it should.
Yeah, a lot has changed. Actually, I'm reading the comments here. And people are saying Psychic Scream can't be. Now, on some private servers, it could be. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually that you can't dispel it.
Yeah, we got a couple different. You're talking about the chat, right? Some people saying you can't. Some people you can.
Well, I'm just gonna say that you can't. Maybe you can't, but I mean I'm playing undead, so. But really, I mean, I'm going to try. Now you said Curse of Shadows. I usually use Curse of Tongues. I usually use Curse of Tongues on like every single caster there is. It's just so annoying. It's but if I'm trying to burst down the Shadow Priest, then yeah, I would switch it to Curse of Shadows. But if they're healing, I'm gonna Curse of Tongues them. I'm gonna try to stop the heal with a spell lock. I also want to spell lock them if they're mind flame me, lock them out of shadow.
One of the huge ace cards you have up your sleeve. This is something that would totally improve my win rate versus Shadow Priest. Happened maybe 3-4 months ago. Someone was telling me about it. It was Yellow Tonka, dude in my community. I've known him for about 2 years now. He was saying the whole 3x Spellstone thing. So it may seem like common knowledge to you guys now, but at the time I didn't know that you could use multiple spell stones, and furthermore that you can remove the blanket silence that the priests apply to you. They have the silence talent, right? And it's like a big chunky silence, like 5 seconds or whatever, and you can just instantly devalue it and rip everything off of you, and just a massive tempo swing in the other direction. And you can do that not only once, but more often than not, the way that it mats out is you'll have enough time to get off 2 spell stones. And between that, plus everything else you got with the Fell Hunter and Coil, Hellstone, everything, Shadow, because you have your own Shadow Ward as well, in my experience, you're usually able to outgas these Shadow Priests, especially they burn through their mana so fast too, right? So like what Voivod was saying earlier, they spend a lot of resources, they get down to like 30% mana, which will happen, then you can switch to draining their mana and you can seal the deal from there. I have much more trouble versus the Disc Priest with mana burn and stuff.
That's what I was gonna say. Is Def Camp would, how he'd be right now. He'd praising those disc priests.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the keys of victory here are going to be watching where the priest's mana is. Personally, I choose Curse of Tongues, shadow locking the priest, trying to drain them. Now, if they have full mana, I'm probably going to try to just control them as much as possible with Fears, Curse of Tongues, and just put as much damage as I can into them. But they can be, and then I would probably go with Curse of Shadows. They can be tricky to deal with, like Namtar was saying, because they have so much resistance. So usually, though, I'm probably going to drain the priest. It's just they can get the better of you with their RNG stuns. It can be really annoying.
Yeah, to me, priest early on is all about a battle of global cooldowns, so that's why I put shadows up first, and then after they start to mind flay and all that, I'll switch out the tongues and start to drain their mana. But their opening, you want to get as much damage out on them as you can to try and burn through their defensive spells.
Yeah, I would say we're still favored though.
Oh yeah.
If we're Soul Link, we're favored forever against anything. But
you love this. You love to hear that.
Hero. It's a free hero. Yeah, if you're playing something like a SM Ruin.
So one thing to keep in mind is that even with your 5-piece Fell Hunter, it's called Master Demon. Like what is that buff called? It's Master Summon or something like that. You get some
Master Demon.
Master Demon. Well, you're saying the 5-piece set bonus is called that? The little buff that appears below you.
Oh, you're talking from tier 1.
Demonic Master. So anyways, it's like a little Curse of Recklessness looking hand, and that doesn't apply to Holy, right? So there's some weird priest meme specs out there where they will slap your Fell Hunter down while you're within a fear, because I don't think that fear is breakable, but even so, like they're able to kill your Fell Hunter within a fear, and now you have no Fell Hunter, and they can kill you, man. There's no holy resistance, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Mana burn you and stuff. So
the only holy thing there is Protection Potion. That's it.
Yeah.
But that's like situationally, like I still wouldn't. I don't carry any of those.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the last one here in the interest of time. We have Shaman, last but not least. These are our friends, not our foes, for all but Namtar. But we do duel them. How do you feel about the Shaman matchup? Favored, unfavored, fair?
I think Warlock's heavily favored against Shaman. Then in open world, they're really annoying because they'll run away and kite with their Earthbind totems. But yeah, in a duel environment, they're heavily under.
You shouldn't lose.
Now, I don't fight Shamans. I'm not a huge dueler because I like to save. I don't really like to use a whole lot of shards. I don't duel a whole lot, but I mean, there's times I do. Now, I don't know of, because I don't fight them, there should be a totem stomping macro to deal with shamans. It
doesn't work in Classic as far as I know, like it did in private servers.
Right. I know. Well, the one in private servers really didn't work too well. So, like for me at least, but I did play on a private server where you did fight shamans, and so I was trying to figure out if there was a totem stomping macro. I could never really get one to work. So a lot for me, it would be micromanaging. Micromanaging, killing totems, while bursting down shaman. Curse of Tongues wrecks shamans. It just wrecks them when they're healing. I mean, yeah. So
that's the big one,
gonna
right? When you tongues them, they have nothing they can do, and they pretty much do all the damage via shocks at that point, right?
Something else to keep note of, it'll save you some keybinds, is Drain Soul will proc on their grounding totems, so you can just spam your rank 1 Drain Soul and get rid of their
sick.
grounding.
You already have it bound, right? That's a great tip.
Yep.
That's a fantastic tip. Yeah,
that's a good tip. I never thought of that.
Yeah, you already have it bound. You don't have to do some scuff shit where you bind another, rank 1 there's agony or something somewhere.
But in open world, in my experience, decent shamans will just start running away and kiting with their earthbind totems, and I just kind of let them go at that point because warlocks have no mobility. I don't want to chase them down, but I think in a dueling situation, we just completely destroy them.
Yeah. Now, if you had to duel for money, like in other words, you just for some reason had to duel a shaman, you had to 1v1 with everything at your disposal, would you think Ellie or Enhance or Resto would have the best shot in a duel if they had to win against the Warlock? I'm partial to say Resto, fam.
Isn't one of their builds like Resto Ellie? Like their big build, their main build?
Maybe deep Resto or some Resto shock build or something. I don't know, man. Now you're gonna lose to Enhanced Shaman. Is that gonna happen? Are gonna stars align and they're gonna Wind Fury will bap you?
That Wind Fury crit though.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm assuming
hand a rag and get lucky.
I mean, if I'm Soul Link, I could probably literally take off all my gear and just beat the shaman.
Boyvid, always trying to get naked in PvP people. Yeah.
Yo, they want to see more naked Soul Link videos.
True. Those are my favorite of yours, I have to say. Those are some good stuff.
It's ridiculous how powerful it is.
Are we all in agreement? Favored versus match? Favored versus shaman? Anyone disagree?
Heavily favored.
Heavily favored.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, unless the stars align and they get that Wind Fury crit, then, they don't be surprised, but, that.
All right, so what I will say, because I've dueled a bunch of shamans recently, been doing these duel tournaments, and I don't have a totem stomping macro personally. I have to do it manually, and it's very easy for the totems, your control of their totems, to slip away from you. And it did for me, and I lost a couple games off shamans. Like, you lose touch of, like, did they just use grounding totem? Did they just do this? Where's the tremor totem? Where all the totems are? And because they can reapply one of them right after. It's like a 20-second cooldown on like the grounding, right? So they can apply one, then reapply another one after, and you're constantly having to like kind of target them and kill them with your pet and deal with them. And if you mess that up, and believe me, you can mess that up, because until I have a totem stomping macro that's going to help me immensely, you can mess that up. You can waste a whole lot of time against the shaman and lose control of the duel, and they can kill you, man. They can kill you. They can do it. So
most of my personal strategy against shamans, just because they're so easy, is to leave my purge and spell lock on autocast and stick my pet on them, then wand down their totems while I chase them.
There you go.
Damn.
There you go.
No, just wand them to death. They're garbage class. I'm a hero class. You're nothing. Just wand them.
But yeah, one add-on you can use if you're having a lot of trouble tracking stuff like that, it's called Rank 14 Losa Classic. It gives you audible cues of key abilities that are used. So it'll say like Grounding Totem and Earthbind Totem and stuff like that, so you know when they're down.
Good to know. In a duel, oftentimes what I'll do is I'll stand right on top of one of the totems getting ready to shank it. I'll have the pet on another totem getting ready to eat it, right? And you just dispose the totems. You chew through one of their, because they're gonna have a grounding, right? So you just hit them with a whatever spell to soak that. You melee one, the pet hits one, and you're like halfway there towards getting the totems under control. That's like my opening, against them in a duel. And then as soon as I make sure that grounding totem is cleared or whatever, I'll usually blanket silence them into a fear, or coil them into a fear, or whatever the case may be. And then once you're able to get the totems under control, easy clap, man.
Now, I know there is a there is a totem stomping macro. There has to be.
Yeah.
I just don't have it because I never fight them, and I don't really duel a whole lot. But I know there has to be a working totem stomp macro. But again, like what I would do, it was just all micromanagement, you know.
Yep.
While like say I'm casting something at the shaman, I'm tabbing and I'm taking care of the totems. I'm usually using my pet to take care of the totems. But there should be a totem stomping macro. Now, if I were on Alliance, I would find this out. I would definitely make sure I had this. And if I ever ran into a shaman, I'd make sure that I'm stomping their totems.
Totems are the X factor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been told that the totem stomp macro doesn't work like it did on private servers, but I haven't ever looked one up. I don't have enough keybinds available to put that on my bars at this point. But come BGs, I'll definitely be looking into it and making sure I have.
Someone's saying the totem stop macro is in the lock Discord. We got to check that out after, because that this is not just a shallow recommendation, ladies and gentlemen. If you have this macro, I'm gonna try and get it right directly after the stream ends. It will dramatically help you versus shamans.
Yeah, you gotta have it. I just don't have it because I don't fight shamans, you know. So
yeah.
That should be right. Slash pet attack space tremor totem. You know, yeah, that should be it. But
All right.
Maybe it doesn't work how it did, and that it has to be spammed now, and versus just clicking it one time and your pet goes ham or something.
I would have to duel the shaman to find.
Okay, so we talked about lock strengths and weaknesses. We went over viable PvP specs. We went over all the 1v1 matchups and broad strokes. We could talk about roles in world PvP and battlegrounds, but I kind of want to skip that and get right to like one final section, which would be consumables, trinkets, and offhands all as one big group. Because if a PvP guide needs that. Does anybody want to chime in with the main consumes? The main consumes, trinkets, all that stuff you're gonna need if you're gonna want to PvP effectively.
Shit, Voivod has a whole video on. He knows.
Yeah, I would say lips and faps. Restorative potions are pretty useful. What else? Let me log into my game real quick.
The basic ones, man. Grenades, right? And it's not only iron. If you can afford it, man, fuck it, get the thorium grenades. So the grenades.
I mean, thorium is crit for like 1k, so they're nothing to sneeze.
Yeah, nothing to sneeze at. Band-aids, huge. Band-aids are huge, right? Sappers, another. That's one of the key ones as well.
Flask of the Titans.
Flask.
Expensive, but hey.
Yeah. Dude, if you got that kind of bank, dude.
Stamina consumes like wolf meat. I prefer over, intellect. Second logging in my game.
Here's one that everybody should have, no matter what, and that is magic dust. You gotta have magic dust.
That farm, though.
Yeah, man.
The farm sucks.
It's easy for Alliance to get hard for
If Namtar, I mean,
magic dust is like 8 gold a pop on my server, though, bro. It's not a cheap consume.
Well, I mean, I don't know, man. I'll spend hours farming that. I have 40 in my bank, so I'm ready. Especially like me personally, I always want to like get in good 2v1s. I hate when they're interrupted, and I want to, that's like what I like to do the most is do like 2v1s, 3v1s, and it just helps out so much if you have magic dust. I can't say it takes somebody out of the game for 10 seconds at least. So
it's huge, expensive. You can buy
something else I like to use are the big one. But you got to use an invis pot with it. You should always have invis pots, by the way. 100%.
Yep.
Always have invis pots.
Especially as a warlock.
But
so you
the big one, if you invis pot into a big one, it can turn the tide of an entire battle. It's just got a long cast time. But it's got a 10-yard radius with a 5-second stun.
Does the damage does break, though, right? On the damage does break the stun.
Yeah, it
the big
does.
one, right? Okay.
Yeah, it does.
So it's just the
Mythal
mortar one? The
bomb.
mortar one could hit a bunch of people and they would be actually stunned?
Yeah, it's got a 5-yard AoE radius. It does 383 to 517 fire damage, and the stun does not break on.
Wow. Very cool.
Something else for for BGs especially, discombobulator ray. It'll dismount mounted players and slow them by 20%.
Yeah, those are, and you don't need to be an engineer to have those. Those are great. Even in world PvP, you get people that, you know, you dot them up and then they run away. You just discombobulator ray them off.
I don't think it works that way in Classic though. I've just been hearing it through the
No,
grapevine.
it does. There was a blue post that it now does. It didn't.
Okay.
Something else I like to use are savory deviate delights just to hide your engineering gear if you got a rocket helm on or something like that, you know.
Swiftness bots, another huge one as a warlock. You want to solve your mobility problem, right? So like swiftness bots are they're cheap. You know, the actual acquisition of these items is a very big factor towards the viability of
I'm a huge fan of cat's eye elixirs, but I hate rogues, so.
Yeah. Yeah, those are also good. Another one you want to make sure that you have is what are the from gadgets? What are they called? They're sold in gadget stand. Noggin floggers.
Oh, noggin floggers. Yep.
Those are really going to be good, especially with BGs coming around the corners. Because unless you want to put on that cape for a slow fall, just keep spamming those for slow fall. I mean, sometimes I've ran off cliffs when I see like nobody's defending a flag. I run off the cliff. I'd rather just die trying to defend it than, you know, getting a capped. And then while I'm in air, I'll hit noggin floggers, RNG, pray to RNG gods, but you know, and then sometimes I get the slow fall of proc. So
what else? You
fire
definitely want to bring a
potions.
set of goblin jumper cables.
Oh, goblin jumper cables, yeah.
Here's one thing that nobody really nobody ever told me about goblin jumper cables. If you're an engineer and you use goblin jumper cables on somebody, you can trade the goblin jumper cables to another engineer, and then they can use them and trade them back. They're tradable. The item is not going to be on cooldown. So the item.
What?
Yeah. So the item
if
itself,
you just barely come out ahead on a flag point or something like that, and you start swapping them around after you res a healer,
you're fucking shitting me, right? You're saying you can do that infinitely and just get infinite chances until it actually works with another engineer?
Yep.
Well, if with another engineer, well, it'll still be on cooldown for you.
Oh, it will be for you. Even when you trade it back, it'll still be on cooldown.
Right, for you, but you can still trade it to somebody else that maybe it's an engineer doesn't have them on them, and then they can use them.
Right, I got you.
Still, it's really good, you know.
Okay.
Now, living action potions, when they come out, gotta have them. You gotta have them. There's no way. Stock them to the ceiling.
What do you need to make them?
Black malfoil and strangle kelp, right?
No, living action.
Oh, you're talking about living action. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, those are like dream foil and something. They're kind of expensive.
Yeah, I'm looking them up right now. Give me a sec.
So also fire prot potions, you know, you may just have them in your bag from your MC runs, like just the cheap ones. It's good for anti-sapper play. That's another thing too. When you see those big death ball team fights, you'll be like, why didn't they all die to our sappers? Or they usually had some sort of fire protection on them or something. That's not a high priority one. If I had to choose one that I would personally want to have, if I had to just choose one consume overall else, it would probably be swiftness. I really like swiftness potions a lot, and they're cheap and stuff, but
I would say limited invulnerability potions.
Yeah, I'd go with
actually living action potions, but they're not out yet. But you know, just can't.
A living action potion is pretty expensive. It's 2 Mountain Silver Sage, 2 Ice Caps, and 2 Heart of the.
Yeah, they're expensive, but I mean, you can break a stun with that. So
wait,
so you got plenty of time to save up gold for them.
It was Ice Cap, Mountain Silver Sage. What was the last thing?
Heart of the Wild.
Okay, so you can get only Heart of the Wild from DM. The other ones you actually have to go to freaking Winter Spring and go to and Silver Sage too. You know that's going to be super expensive. Holy shit.
Stock up.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now trinkets and offhands. We talked a good amount about consumables, so hopefully people get a good understanding. Those are the basics. Pretty much get every trinket. It's not about so much what trinkets you should and shouldn't get. Just try and get all the trinkets at some point, but you're probably not going to carry all of them around with you in your bags at all times. You guys want to go off the top of the head what trinkets you actually keep on you everyday carry, EDC, trinkets in your bags when you go out into the world?
Skull Oni.
I could tell you right now, Goblin Rocket Helm, Cat's Eye Ultra Goggles, 3 sets of Goblin Rocket Boots, 3 Goblin Mortars. I bring a Cannonball Runner with me because it's got a 5-minute cooldown. It does about 900 damage. Insignia of the Alliance, whatever your PvP trinket is, Carrot on a Stick, nifty stopwatch. I personally prefer a Mithril Mechanical Dragonling over the Battle Chicken because it can't be feared. And then the Net and Skull of Impending Doom, and obviously all 3 reflectors. Goblin Jumper Cables XL. I think that's it.
Like the
My-
offhand.
My default setup, I guess you would say, I'm out in the world, I'm farming, is I'm going to be having my Voidwalker out. I'm going to have a Goblin Rocket Helm. I'm going to have a DPS trinket, and I'm going to have a Gnomish Netomatic, followed by all the consumes in my bags. That's just my default. I'm out in the world farming setup, so that's what it's going to be for me. But, you know, trinkets, hey, gotta have them all, right? Get them all.
Gotta have them all, dude. Nifty stopwatch, another huge one. The Skolo trinket, the Barrow Peasant Collar, those are pretty sweet. Another good play.
Yep.
When someone pops that on you, just sapper them and they all die. It's pretty sweet. Works pretty
Yeah, or you can
cleanly.
nade them, thorium nade them, and they all just get stunned.
Yep, that'll do the trick too. Just move quickly because those things actually hurt, man. Those hurt. The Oni book is a big one.
I love that Oni book.
Furlbog, the medicine pouch, but also if you do the whole reputation grind, there is another necromancer type trinket that comes from the Furlbog reputation. So you can get that one. Infernal stones, carry those around, dude. Infernal. We didn't really talk about it that much, but infernal stones, carry those, man. Infernos are just sick, dude. It's
I always have at least 5 stones on me.
yeah.
What? Just quick side thing. Quick little side note. If you have your Voidwalker out, you can sacrifice your Voidwalker and then immediately just cast your Inferno. You're not going to get the pushback because you have your bubble on you, so you're not going to get pushback and you're going to get the 2-second stun. And the things just, I mean, they're amazing. It's 1 hour cooldown for a reason.
Yep, they're so strong. Very underrated, and it is an on-demand stun. So people that say Warlocks don't have an on-demand stun, kind of true, but you have the Inferno, man. Inferno. And
another big item that all Warlocks should aspire to get is a Tidal Charm. I think it's super good for Warlocks, above a lot of other classes, but easier said than done.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I should go try to farm that now.
It's hard. The timer for it is.
Oh, especially with like private server guilds that monopolize it and sell it.
Are we missing anything with offhand? We have Medicine Pouch, Spellstone, Cornerstone Grimoire.
If you can't get the Cornerstone Grimoire, there's another one. I think it comes out of Strat that summons the same. Maybe it's out of Skolo. It summons the same skeleton.
Yeah, it does. It drops off that guy with the huge room of like yellow observer guys. You know that guy in Skolo?
Like
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. Skull of Impending Doom.
Oh yeah, Skull, of course.
Gotta have that one.
Gotta get Skull. Let's see.
But I would say the really big trinkets are like Goblin Mortar, the Net, Discombobulator Red.
Dude, you love the Goblin Mortar, bro. Now I'm determined to make this work, man.
Now I want to see it now.
Right?
It's got insane range on it too. Yeah, you can launch it from a good 40 yards.
Jesus, dude. Yeah, I'm hyped to check it out.
I've been slacking on my trinkets. I don't even have my reflectors yet. Like I've been just totally slacking.
Gnomish Cloaking Device is huge, even though it's a 1 hour cooldown. It can save you in a lot of situations.
Yep, both PvE and PvP. I think we covered all of it, though, guys. What do you guys think? I'm feeling pretty happy about it. This went way longer than I anticipated. I'm so thankful you guys stuck around for this long. It's been over 3 hours we've been talking. Time flew for me, at least. I don't know. I was having fun just talking about this stuff. It is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a good conversation.
Yeah, I can talk Warlock stuff all day, man. I love this.
I actually learned some stuff too, like some actionable things. I'm really, really thankful, guys. Like, this is really dope. I'd love to do this another time as well. If you guys enjoyed the content watching, please, the best way you can support the channel and these types of conversations is by making it worth these guys' time. So please, at very minimum, just follow them and stuff. Like, here's Voivid's YouTube channel. I'll put Namtar's Twitter in here. Crix, you don't stream or anything, do you? Or do you have a Twitch?
Yeah. Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, well, if you want to play with Crix, he is admin in the Scarum Discord. He plays Horde Size Scarum in our guild Invictus. He's one of the officers in he was a Cottonmouth raid group, right? Cottonmouth.
Yeah.
So that's where you can find him. Voivid has what 3K subs or something. He needs way more subs, guys. He makes some really good content. Absolutely.
Underground, boys.
The man's animal.
Very humble dude, very nice guy, so much knowledge to share. Do yourself a favor and go check out his channel right now. Links are in the description below. Namtar's Twitter as well. Do you guys have any final closing thoughts for the stream or anything Warlock related that we missed or anything?
I think my main takeaway that I'd give anyone aspiring to be a decent Warlock is, like I said earlier, don't be a slave to the meta. Experiment with all the different talent builds. Nothing beats actual experience. So just have fun.
Yeah, I agree. You know, there are some guide videos on like different specs, but you know, don't be afraid to respec. Yeah, sure, it might cost you some gold, but you know, whatever. Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Great conversation, guys.
I love it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, one thing. This is for undead players. That actually a buddy told me about, and I've just been using this. You can macro your food into your cannibalize, so you can say for whatever reason you want to cannibalize something, you're usually going to want to eat food on top of it. Well, if you're undead, you can macro those two together, and it's really, really helpful. So
you can eat and cannibalize at the same time?
You can eat and cannibalize. So you can eat and drink and cannibalize at the same time if you're undead.
What?
You could also use that Halloween candy with it too if you macroed it.
Yeah, you could do. You probably could do that. So you could regen just like that. So
if anyone's watching this as a VOD after the fact, as a video, comment Voivid's tip into the comment section below. I want to see how many of you have made it 3 hours and 17 minutes into this conversation. Any of the absolute legends that make it to the very end. That's a hell of a tip. There's some great tips. There's some bangers in here. Hey, Crix, any last words, man?
Good luck.
No, man. It just takes a lot of practice. Just know that you guys should be able to beat everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, free hero class, boys. Come on.
Here, smack everybody. If you can't, you're doing something wrong.
All right, well, that's going to do it for a World of Warcraft Classic Warlock PvP guide. Again, not the most comprehensive thing ever, but hopefully, you know, somewhere along these 3 hours and 17 minutes, you're able to learn some decent stuff. Really thank you for your time and tuning in today. And we have GMA later this week coming on, and we might do some other stuff as well. Have a great one, guys. Enjoy your time in Azeroth. Life's too short. Make the most of it. You know what it is. See you guys in the next one. All right, we're going to host High Warlock.